Welcome, everybody, to Crystal Bearers, a Final Fantasy podcast. This is episode 2. I'm Droogle.
I'm Raitsu Shupa.
And I'm Easley.
And we are the Crystal Bearers, as are you, if you are here right now watching at twitch.tv/Droogle. But of course, we archive these episodes as well on YouTube and podcast services. We'll get into that in a little bit. First, I also want to welcome our very special guest, Eyes on B.
I must have moved a little bit. Hello.
You're good. You're fine.
No, that's good. That's
I can adjust you anyway. If you need me to move you over, that's no problem. Welcome in, B.
Hi.
Hi, B. Welcome.
Hi, B.
It's awesome to have you here for this episode. I'm really excited about this episode. We're going to have so much to talk about tonight. Of course, Final Fantasy XVI just released this past month. That's a huge milestone for the series. We haven't had a Final Fantasy mainline entry come out in 7 years. So that alone is a lot to talk about. But on top of that, we have a lot of other like speculative conversation pieces that we're going to get into later on in the show. But before I do that, let me say that I'm really happy with last month's episode and the podcast response that we've had. You guys have been amazing. So many of you jumping on to Spotify and YouTube and Apple Podcasts, following the show, listening to the show. I've had so many issues over the years trying to get podcasts to have any traction whatsoever. This is the first time that I've gotten above like a dozen listens on a podcast. So that is awesome. Thank you so much, guys, for supporting us in that way. Easley, how you doing? You're having an exciting day, aren't you?
Yeah, actually before that, I actually wanted to say happy birthday to Final Fantasy IX. It is 23 years today since the Japanese release of Final Fantasy IX.
I did not know that. That's so weird that
So
happened.
before
Wow.
we started, I wanted to say that. But yeah, I started Final Fantasy XVI today, thanks to my very, very, very generous community, and absolutely loving it so far. Easily one of the best games I've played in years.
You literally just got the
So-
PS5 this morning.
Literally got it today. It arrived at 10 a.m. this morning. I got it set up. I got all sorted. And after a phone call with some family in a foreign country, I got started. And seeing it's one thing, playing it's a whole different thing.
We're going to have a whole review in progress. That's going to be spoiler free, of course. You guys, we know a lot of you are not far into the game, so we'll save that for a little bit later. Shoop also got surprised with a PS5 this past month too. How you doing, Shoop?
Yeah, it was funny because I was listening to last month's podcast when I was driving. I live like 45 minutes from my bank, so I was like, I'll listen to the podcast while I drive to the bank. And I was listening to myself say, well, I'm never gonna get to play 16, so I'm gonna watch you guys play it and enjoy it through you and all that fun stuff. And yeah, yesterday was, other than me playing the demo part on Drew's channel a few weeks ago, yesterday was the first time that I played my own save file of Final Fantasy 16 and played the demo again.
It's funny because in that episode, we did a pretty good job of keeping it secret because we knew at that point already that we had the fundraiser going to get you the PS5.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that
Yeah.
until the other day. And I asked Drew, I said, hold on, when we were doing the Crystal Bearers podcast, did you already have the fundraiser started? He was like, oh, yeah. But yeah, thanks to you guys. I got a PS5 for my birthday.
Both
and
of
I
you
really appreciate
deserve it. We're so happy that both of you get to play Final Fantasy 16 at release, as it should be. Some of the most diehard Final Fantasy fans I know. As is B. How you doing, B?
I'm good. I'm probably the furthest out of everybody.
I would
You're
think
way
so.
far, I
Oh,
think.
yeah.
I'm like probably close to the end, but somebody told me I still have 20 more hours potentially. And I was like, put like 50 hours into this. So just
20 hours of
buckle
like
in.
straight up story or 20 hours of like side quests and all that kind of stuff?
I do I can't say that it's going to be, completionist like platinum or anything like that. I don't think you can do that in a first playthrough, but I like to do everything I can. So yeah, I think that's including side quests.
Yeah. Do you guys know if like the percentage is kind of getting into the weeds here, but the percentage that PS5 shows, do you know if that includes side quests or is that just story?
It does.
It does. Okay.
Yeah.
Then I'm further than I would have thought because I'm also, I think I'm in like the 40s. I'm like 45% of the way in.
That's really surprising. I checked mine when I logged off. I was at 28%.
You'll find something really interesting. I went hard into the game when it came out, and I've had to take a couple of breaks just because I've had a busy month. But I hit 50% in the first like 15 hours of playing the game. And
Yeah,
that's all I'm gonna say.
it's
That's all I'm gonna
deceiving.
say.
It's very
It's
deceiving.
very
I don't know why it would be deceiving. So now I'm like extra curious, like what you might be talking about here. But
My
Yeah.
my assumption is that obviously, think about it on like a disc one of like 7, 8, or 9. The
Yeah.
side quests are very minimal side quests. They're not as in depth.
oh sure,
But the later you get into the games, the longer those side quests, like the Chocobo Hot and Cold side quest in 9, takes way longer than Jump Rope. Well,
Mhm.
not really, but
Even just in general, even when it comes to story, a lot of the times I feel like a lot of it's so front heavy sometimes. Like 7, for example, disc 1 is like the mass majority of that story. I feel like by the time you're done disc
Mhm.
1, you're pretty far into that game. I do want to talk about side quests in the game a little bit later on because that is one area where so far I'm like a little bit like disappointed in the side quests, and I think we can kind of talk about that without getting in the spoilers. Before that, I also want to acknowledge that this is, of course, a very interactive talk show. Crystal Bear is on the first Thursday of every month, and we have a lot of cool things you guys can do in chat. Of course, we want to talk with you. This is a podcast, though. Obviously, we're going to be having a conversation. We'll try to dip to you guys as much as possible, but one of the things that you can do to make sure that your question is answered, or hopefully answered, is use channel point redemptions like the Moogle mailbox. Those are entered into the mailbox and they will be sifted through towards the end of the show. We might get through all of them. We'll do our very best. It depends on how long the show goes, of course. We have a lot of stuff we want to talk about tonight. And there's also a couple of fun games you guys can utilize, like providing EXP, experience points to myself, Shoop, or Easily. That is like a little mini game that's going to be going throughout the entire history, trajectory, whatever you want to call it, of Crystal Bears moving forward. Before we get into Final Fantasy XVI as the big thing that we're all playing, I'm wondering if we're playing anything else. I'll go to you first, Easily. I know that you had an exciting thing happen like in the past couple weeks with Final Fantasy IX.
I wasn't sure I was going to mention it at first. So I hit a new PB probably a week and a bit ago. I hit a 7-hour 44-minute, which puts me 12th on the leaderboard now.
Easily 12.
Now the really funny thing is, I did a run yesterday, which had 3 really bad parts happen. If I did those on even pace to PB, just them 3 sections, I would have hit a 7:36 yesterday,
Ooh.
which is an 8-minute PB.
Wow.
I
So
caught the end of your stream yesterday and I saw it was right before Death Geist.
And where would that have put you rank wise if you actually hit that?
I think it's about 7th. I haven't fully checked because I don't want to break
You're
my
so
heart like that.
close. You're so close. You're gonna break that top 10 in no time. I can feel it. You're
I'm
almost
hoping
there.
so.
That's exciting. Congrats, man.
Thank you.
Are you getting,
This-
out of curiosity, are you at all getting, I don't know if tired's the word, but like a little bit drained of Final Fantasy IX, or is it still just holding strong for you?
No, the only frustration I get is that because I'm trying to do something at such a quick pace and the little things happen, I find myself more and more annoyed at the game through very little things. And then all of a sudden I'll find that I'm completely okay with the progress because I'm no longer at PB pace as such, and I find myself really enjoying it again. But it really can feel very frustrating when you lose, say, a minute due to one very small but significant thing. And I know B understands that I am quite well, but it's an experience which I didn't expect to feel already.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but here we are. I think I dropped more F-bombs in a single fight than I probably dropped in an entire run a few months ago.
That's weird because for you, like I feel like I rarely hear you curse and cuss. It's pretty rare for you. Pretty
I
even keel
feel
guy.
like I feel that's not true anymore.
This game's destroying you. It's pretty, yeah.
I think the better you get, the more you curse, because you're hard on yourself. You know
Mhm.
that you can, especially when you look at certain load times and and you know, like, okay, this one's probably going to be in the red because I did so well. Like the sum of all of your best segments are beyond world record.
Yeah, it's like 720 something, right?
718.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn. So imagine if you could pull that off, if you could just
World
have
record
that perfect run.
720-28.
Yeah, 728. But I will 100% say this. I was in Brutal's stream earlier, and he said to me, "Do you feel you're still improving?" And I said, "Absolutely." I had one split which is purely menus and movement, nothing else. It has no dialogue, just menus and movement. And I had a 13-second PB just because of menu speed.
Yeah.
And that makes all the difference in the world. And not my controller, my PS4 controller has been faulty for the last 3 weeks. So it's been a bit of a struggle. So I'm going to try it with the PS5 controller, which I'm told is a lot better.
You're going to like it.
It is.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. How funny would it be? Well, not funny. I think you would pull your hair out. I think if imagine you got PB, like all-time PB, and then suddenly somebody discovers like the craziest Final Fantasy IX like skip or something.
Oh, they will. That's what always happens.
Yeah. And a lot of us think that if Pete, the current world record holder, puts some actual effort into trying to do 9 HD again,
Yeah.
he will smash his world record by like 3-4 minutes, not a problem. He's so good at the game. He's the only runner that truly uses mouse and keyboard as well as controller to a phenomenal degree.
I hear a dog go.
Yeah, he wants to play. He keeps dropping a toy on my lap.
How many dogs are going to be named Torgal pretty soon? I wonder.
I feel like it's going to be the Game of Thrones phenomenon where everybody was naming their daughters Khaleesi or Daenerys.
Let's hope Torgal doesn't betray us all. Shoot. How you doing? I know you haven't played a lot in the last month.
No, I haven't.
You really just got back to streaming.
I've had a lot going on. Preparing to move in with Drew.
This guy?
With this guy, yeah. So I haven't been able to stream as much, but I'm really looking forward to jumping to 16. I played the demo part yesterday. I had a lot of technical difficulties yesterday, and I had a lot of updates and a lot of things that I had to get done. So I really took yesterday to be like a test stream when I got home. It seems as every time I go out of town that I have a power surge in my apartment. So when I come home, I have to reset so much
super
stuff.
Weird.
It's every time I leave town. I don't understand. So I took yesterday to just like play through the demo portion of 16 and just experience it alone again.
It's probably good in a way that you are starting later than everybody, and you haven't been spoiled really, because you have that opportunity now to sort of follow up everybody else that got ahead of you, and now they get to be like, oh, I can watch her now because I don't have to worry about spoilers. And in a way, it almost makes you feel like moving forward with like big releases that I shouldn't play them.
I did have one major thing that was spoiled for me that I'm a little salty about. I'm not going to discuss it because it's a big spoiler. But I talked to Kyan about it, and he was like, you know what? He was like, that's okay. He's like, there's so much other stuff that hasn't been spoiled for you. And that's kind of how I'm trying to look at it.
But I saw you kind of nodding your head there for a second when I talked about not playing at launch. You were there day -1. And you're further than everybody. Do you feel like you're happy kind of like to have that jump start, or?
No, I'm happy because I didn't want to get spoiled on it, and that's always been number one for me, and that's why I did it. But I usually don't play games on release because I just don't like what happens with Twitch. Elden Ring was like the biggest example of what happened with Twitch. Everybody's view counts just completely broke.
Just plummeted.
And a lot of the chat becomes, hey, I can't stay, you know. And it's like it's well intentioned and everything, but it's just mentally defeating some ways. So yeah,
I understand that.
I'm fine, but like I see a lot of other people who in the past week have been really down, and I'm like, is it because they're playing 16 and everybody's view counts are down? Because
it's a combination for sure, right? I mean, this is that time of year, especially the week of July 4th. Like so many people are on vacation right now, and the weeks leading up to that. Weather is beautiful. This time of year is so hard for us as streamers. It always is, and you always forget, I feel like, how hard it is, because you're like, it's not going to be like this year. It's not going to be like that this year. Numbers are going to stay good, and it never happens. They always dip. Everybody experiences it. Everybody gets into this really bad mindset that's really hard to come out of. But you have to remind yourself that like it's normal, and numbers aren't everything, right? So
Exactly.
I do have to say, on the flip side, because I wasn't playing 16 on release, because I obviously couldn't. I was just doing my normal 9 speed runs. I had the opposite effect because everyone was on 16.
Mm-hmm.
I literally had double the views. I had more raids than I've ever had outside of charity stream.
because nobody wanted to
Um,
raid 16, they wanted to
Yeah.
raid
exactly.
something else that was still Final Fantasy, right?
In
Yeah.
2 streams, I had 29 raids,
Oh my god.
and I
Wow.
normally get like 2 or 3 at a big amount. Let alone, I had 11 on one of the streams alone, and I was just sat here like, it's 16. Like,
Yeah.
I know it is. There
Good for
was
you.
not a single other 9 speedrunner going that week at all.
Yeah.
I mean, even yesterday when I was streaming, I was ending and I was looking down the list of people I follow, and I was like,
Everyone.
okay, everyone's
Everyone.
playing 16. So I typed in Trapeze, and I was like, the only person with the Trapeze tag on right now is Easley, so I'm gonna raid.
But at the same
Easley.
time, it's exciting, right? As people that are fans of this franchise and have been fans of this franchise from the very beginning, it's really cool to see how much excitement is surrounding it right now, how many people are playing it. We're going to talk about sales numbers, we're going to talk about the reception and all that when we get into the level update. Before we officially get into 16, B, have you been playing anything else, or is it really just 16 right now?
Yeah, my life is 16 at the moment.
Good. That allows us to
Don't
just move
blame
in.
you.
We can
I
just
will say,
jump right
though,
in.
I do want to add on to it. I like playing ahead because I've been able to watch everyone's reactions,
Mm-hmm.
and that's been really fun.
There, without going into spoilers, of course, there have been some pretty wild moments already for me. Like 4 days in, probably about 20 hours total. Been some wild stuff happening in this game, which is exciting. But we have kind of a lot of our level update focused around 16, so we can kind of do our review and progress while talking about some of these stories. So let's do it, guys. Let's get into the month's big news in Final Fantasy. Level update, first story. Let's talk about really the reception of the gamers and the reception of critics and all that kind of stuff. Let's start with us first, of course. B, I kind of want to go to you because you are the furthest. Like, what is your sort of high level feeling on Final Fantasy 16 now being 75% or so into the game?
I love it, and I do think it's going to end up being probably in my top 3. I don't know where. It really depends on where it ends up, but I feel like the gameplay, like I really enjoy the combat, and I'm not an action player. I don't do that. I'm used to turn-based. I'm not like strict on it. I want to be more open to it, but I feel like this is the kind of game that even if you use the accessories, you feel like you're putting in a lot of effort. That's something that Kyan had pointed out at one point, that he was watching a fight I was doing, and he was like, wow, it looks like you went through the same amount of effort to do it. And I think it's just amazing that they figured it out in a way to make us all feel the same way, but make it more accessible to everyone. That's like the biggest thing for me. The story, I'm enjoying the story. The weird one for me is music. It's good, but it's never gonna beat 8 for me.
Mhm.
It's good, but I think 14 also has better tracks.
So far, I would agree with you, if I'm being honest with you. We can get to some
Yeah.
hot takes here, maybe, but
Yeah.
if I'm being completely honest, Soken just doesn't compare to me to Yuimatsu. Just doesn't. I am more of somebody that focuses on. I really like strong melodies. I'm more into like melodic nature of songs, and Soken definitely has those times when he's like that. But he's very bombastic. He's very theatrical, very very cinematic, and it works really well in 16 for those cutscenes. Right, those moments are elevated by such a great bombastic score in those moments, but I find myself not feeling attached or remembering really many of the songs in the game, like humming to myself, while I'm just in the car or anything like that. Nothing's really coming to mind even right now. I'm trying to think of a song that I could like hum right now. None of them really come to me. There's no melodies in the game that really stand out. Doesn't mean the music's bad. The music's great and it surfaces the game incredibly well. It's just I'm not going to be somebody so far that downloads this song on Spotify and listens to it on repeat. I don't think. You know what I mean?
I think there's a few tracks for me, I feel like, that I will come back to. And for me, Soken, when I was playing 14, didn't grow on me until after Stormblood. There are some
Really?
tracks in the last two expansions that I was like, those are good.
Mm.
But I don't know.
I can
That's
say
not-
already
I
the
don't- I'm not saying it's
leitmotif,
bad.
the leitmotif of Heavensward. Shoop can attest to this. I listen to that a lot. I do really, really like the leitmotif of Heavensward. That's a
It's kind of
good.
it's kind of funny because when Drew started playing 14 throughout A Realm Reborn, he was just like, okay, it's just kind of the same song played over and over again. And then once he got into Heavensward, yeah, that's all he listens to in the car now.
Yeah, I do really like that one. So that gives me hope, though, that maybe Soken will deliver something like that in 16 that really, really sticks with me. It hasn't happened quite yet. I'm more just like, oh man, these are some great action songs. Like, damn, I can really like get into the moment. Like, when I'm not going to get into detail, but when Find Your Flame plays for the first time, that's a moment. That is a memorable moment without a doubt.
Is that the song towards the end of the demo?
No, it's not in the demo,
No.
I don't believe.
Okay. Well, I don't know the name of the song, but the song that plays during the iconic fight in the demo, that brings me to tears. And I've watched 4 or 5 people play the demo. I played it on Drew's account, and I played it now on my account yesterday. And yesterday I cried just as much as I did the first time I played it. And I don't know what it is about that whole scene with Joshua and his "I will do my duty." Like,
Yeah.
it's
Powerful.
yeah, but with the music behind it, that song is absolutely epic, but not so much so that it's distracting from what's happening in the game.
Touching on that actually for a moment, the power of the demo. First off, I think it was a genius idea on Square Enix's part. That was an amazing marketing tool, and I think it really did convince a lot of people to buy this game. There were a lot of Final Fantasy alumni that were on the fence about 16 because it's not Final Fantasy, it's not turn-based, it's not active time battle, it's not this X, Y, and Z. I don't want to mess with it, but a free demo, okay, I'll check that out, and I think it hooked a lot of people. But also at the same time, I have noticed a lot of people say that it kind of peaked so highly with that demo, that demo, the end of it especially, is so amazing and powerful and emotional that it kind of, after that, the fact that it kind of plateaus for a little while and then elevates again and such. I think people were like, oh, it was at such a high after the demo, then it kind of peters off for a little while before it jumps back up again. Easily you're 6.5 hours in. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, I deliberately didn't play the demo because I was like, you know what, the game has it anyway. I'm going to get straight in. For one, with regards to music, it is one of the only I don't get emotional very much, and I felt it during that iconic fight. But with regards to the gameplay so far, the bit I'm struggling with, the only bit that really drags it down to me so far is you've got these epically high moments followed by a very dull lull after it.
Yeah.
And that might get better later on. It might just be the start of the game. But to me, it's very much like, it's what the demo's problem is essentially, because it gives you this incredible high and then you're going to experience a lull. Don't know how long it is until you hit the next high. And I mean, I did hit the next high and it was fantastic.
Oh yeah.
But then I don't know when my next lull's going to be and how long for. So I'm hoping it's not a long one. And I think that's probably the only downside, the only negative point I'm currently giving the game.
Yeah.
Maybe
Go ahead.
I was gonna say maybe the developers wanted to give you time to digest.
Hmm.
Because you think about a lot of these games that have those big epic highs that usually in the older games, usually come towards the end, and then you're left with just this emptiness, this emotional hangover.
Yes.
And
That's a good point.
Maybe they give you that digestion time.
I needed it a couple times where I was just like, I need a break, but I want to keep playing, but I need a break. So it, like, especially if I didn't play the demo and I wanted to move on into that next portion of the game after the demo, I would have needed a break because the first time I played that, I was a mess.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those moments. It was kind of like to compare it to Game of Thrones, which a lot of people are, because intentionally so. I mean, it's not like they're lying about it. They said they were inspired by Game of Thrones, especially seasons 1 through 4. It was like after the Red Wedding, right? You know, when the Red Wedding happened, and it's got that silent credits so that you can just reflect on those moments. Like, imagine if you had another episode immediately after that. I'd be like, no way. I'm not watching anything right now. I need a break from this. And I do think it's a good point, Shoop and B, that they needed to have those moments of digestion. I do think that the lulls can get a little too long for me here and there, and I think the game is going to be a game of high highs and low lows. Like, these are just place names, but Lost Wing, Eastwood, like these towns that you go through, to me so far they've been kind of samey. They don't really have their own like atmosphere that stands out to me. The path to those locations for the most part hasn't been anything where it's like, it's beautiful, don't be wrong, because the game is technically fantastic, it's like absolutely gorgeous, right? But there's nothing artistically necessarily that's like standing out at me as super duper memorable. I just hit a moment where I went into an area that I was like, oh, here's what I'm talking about. Like this is really crazy cool looking. It was after I got new threads. I'll say that I got some new threads and went into a really cool location. And I'm hoping for more stuff like that, because that makes it so that even though that wasn't a high going through that area, it led to a high, but still I was like, oh, this is cool. Look at this. Look at that. This entire atmosphere is beautiful. Those are the moments that make the digestion during the lulls a little bit more palatable for me, where it's like I have things to look at, I have amazing music to listen to, I've got this and that. But certain towns have been a little dull for me here and there.
I think personally a lot of that has to do with the music in the towns. I mean, I've only been to a couple so far, but it's the same music in both. And if it is the same music in every town, that's what distinctly changes how you view each town. Like, if you look at 9, you go into Dali, it sounds different from Alexandria, it sounds different from Lindblom, it sounds different from any other place. In 8, you've got Balam that sounds different from Dealing City. All of these places sound different. You know where you are from the sound, and I think that's one of the big things.
That is such a good point, yeah.
But I mean, at the same time, Square obviously know what they're doing in terms of they have a winning formula. They go, right, the game starts well, it dips a bit, it goes better, dips a bit. It's all what they've done in all of their top games.
I was gonna say that I always think of disc 2 of Final Fantasy VIII. Right after disc 1 ends, there's a pretty hard lull every single time. I see a lot of people drop off at that point if they're playing it.
9 has it in disc 3. It's
true.
That's where it kills the vibe for a while.
It's funny because those are some of my favorite moments actually sometimes. Like, you remember in 8 where the Balam Garden just like shuts down and you're floating in the ocean for a little bit, right?
That's where I feel like it picks back up. I'm talking more so the like
just
Laguna segment, the missile base. Like, I actually sort of like those segments, but I remember when I was playing for the first time, I was like, man, this feels like a different game.
Like when he wakes up after the end of disc 1, where he is, and you sat there like,
Yeah, I guess that's the difference of approach, right? It's like sometimes it's not intentional to have a lull, and sometimes it is intentional to have a lull. And what I'm talking about with Balam Garden floating in the ocean and just kind of wandering around with Renoa, giving her a tour of Balam, I loved that moment because it came after an intense part in the story, and it was this intentional lull to give you a moment to relax and digest what came before it, as opposed to what you guys are talking about, where it's like, no, this wasn't intentional, it's just not really working for me in this moment. But I feel like I'm being a little too negative, and I don't mean to be, because I really do love the game and I want to focus on something that I think is really, really fantastic, and that's the characters. I think the characters, for me so far, the characters are the absolute highlight.
Effector said that in chat. He said, things to look at. Have you seen these characters? Has anyone found an unattractive Final Fantasy XVI character?
Well, I wasn't talking about that, but okay.
I mean, the odd side character.
NPCs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
everybody is pretty good looking in that game. It's without a doubt. Clive is one of the all-time.
Yes. I've been saying, and I don't think you guys have played this, but one of my favorite games is this game called Mother 3. It's the sequel to Earthbound, and I only played it about a year ago, but it was the game I had the hardest time saying goodbye to, because every single character in the game I was attached to in some kind of way. And I am feeling the exact same way with this game, where there's just this like, I know it's going to be really hard for me to say goodbye, and I'm really curious how they're going to pull it off.
Well, on that, I mean, in 16 when I was playing it, I spoke about a character and I was like, I really like them so far. I think they're really quite cool. I didn't know what happens to them. That they weren't in the game after a certain time. And I was like, oh, okay. Don't know how I feel about that, but okay. But I mean, it's an integral part, but still.
Yeah.
I think I know which character you're talking about. I haven't gotten there in my gameplay yet. But I've popped in. I've been in and out of Drew's streams because I don't want to spoil myself. It's hard though when your partner is also a gamer and a streamer. You know, B, I'm sure you can relate.
Hmm.
But so I've been in and out of Drew streams, and there was one where I was in where I was kind of surprised about a character as well. I'm sure easily is probably referring to the one that I'm thinking of, but it's hard to let go of characters, especially the longer you spend time with them.
Yeah.
And as much as people want to hate on Titus/Titus for being whiny and immature, he's meant to be that way as a child. It doesn't hurt any less at the end of the game. You've spent his whole journey with him, and then he's just gone.
I think that's
You see him develop.
You watch him
right.
change, yeah.
And I go into like sort of the reason Titus is treated negatively because he's whiny, he's a baby. That's kind of what I love about Clive, though, is this contrast of this really strong, sort of like muscular, manly man, right? But I love that he is so empathetic and sweet, actually. Like there's a sweetness to
He has a
him.
very benevolent nature.
Oh my God, yeah, and especially considering what the world has done to him. Like the way everybody treats him in this game, the way everybody treats bears without going into too much information, like most people would become villains. Like that's the villain origin story right there. Clive's the exact opposite of that. Like this is a man that has been beaten down for the last 10 years and he's gone through so much and so much heartache and loss, and he still is this really kind, sweet, benevolent, empathetic person, and I think that's what makes him a really, really great character.
It's so surprising too, because I remember seeing a lot of people go, oh, another edgy Final Fantasy main character, and I'm like, he looks edgy, but I mean,
He's
Ben,
not.
the voice actor, really brought to life a character that like I care so much about. Even the character I hated the most is such a good actor that I actually like and I can't say I sympathize, but like I respect in a very weird way. Like I feel like the voice acting is above and beyond anything I've played.
Yes, it's another level for
Agree.
Final Fantasy for sure, and especially because it's just a different approach to acting in this Final Fantasy in comparison to pretty much any we've seen before. I mean, to be fair, 10, even 12 to a certain extent, 7 remake, they're anime-ish in their sort of approach to voice acting, whereas this is like British acting or something. You know, this is like these are people that like went through British school of acting, like, and they're on another level.
Look at the degree of swearing in this game versus, and it's very British swearing. I'm not joking. It's very different than what you guys may hear over in the States. It's consistently certain words like shouting bollocks because we do.
And
So-
Kyan says, I would say it's a different approach to acting in a video game, period. I think it's not just the voice acting, it's the direction, it's the cinematography, it's allowing moments of silence. There are moments in the game where nobody speaks. They're sitting together, they're in a conversation, but they'll allow a moment for something to hit. They'll allow silence to permeate for a moment so that something lands. And that's something that's actually kind of special, in my opinion, in this game.
I will say, like, when you guys think of voice acting, you think of somebody voicing a character. What Ben Starr did with Clive's voice, you can hear the pain in his voice just in the first 2 hours of the game. You can hear what sounds to me like a real life person experiencing something in real life that is absolutely traumatic and heart shattering. And I think that's what really makes me what really makes me feel so much is when you hear the genuine realism in someone's voice. I'm not looking at a video game character thinking, oh, poor video game character. I'm thinking, who crushed this man's soul who's doing the voice? That's phenomenal voice acting to me.
He went all in on that first like opening. By the end of that demo, let's just say, that's a brave performance there at the end of that. Like he in the voice booth, you can hear that he is crying. Like he is sobbing, probably got tears and from his eyes and his nose. Like he's going all in on that performance in that moment. And that's definitely a testament to Ben Starr there. That was a really, really powerful moment. He did a fantastic job. I think he's going to be remembered for this in a big way. I really do think so. And
the internet loves him too. So that's, I just saw him talking today about the Sea of Stars demo, because like that's the cool thing is he's a huge fan of the series. So it's really cool now seeing him interact with everybody and talk about the things he likes, and everyone's like, oh my god, like this guy's just like us. This is so cool. So
yeah,
it just makes it really nice.
His favorite is 8, and B had a triple triad card made for him.
Yeah, that's pretty special.
That's awesome. That is.
I'm so jealous that you got to meet all these people.
It was a fun experience.
Yeah.
It not enough time to do or talk to everybody in the way I would have liked to, but
Sure.
I'm hoping they do more events like that, honestly.
It gives. There was a time where I feel like Square Enix had more personality and they became more of like a corporation recently. And things like this event, which how many people were invited to the event you went to?
Creator-wise, I think there was about 80 creators, and then there was probably about 100 just public admission, and then I'd say about like 50 staff there. So there's 250 people there total.
But these are the types of things that give Square Enix that personality again, that I've kind of missed for a while. So I agree with you. I hope they do some more of that. One thing I want to talk about before we get into some of their stories related to 16 is there's definitely some polarization going on. And this isn't unusual. This is actually par for the course with Final Fantasy, and I think we should definitely elaborate on that. Certainly some not my Final Fantasy type commentary surrounding this game. That was before it released and now after as well. And I'm kind of curious, now that you guys are into it a little bit, I don't think there's anything wrong, honestly, with saying like, not my Final Fantasy, but I think you need to sort of talk about what that means to you and not attack it, or certainly not attack other people for enjoying what Final Fantasy is becoming. So B, I'll start with you here. Like, what do you think?
So I'm somebody who loves FF12, and I think my cat just knocked something over, so sorry about that. But I love FF12, and that was a game that when it came out initially, I was like, this is not my Final Fantasy. And it's something that over time, when I sat down and I played it later, it hit me in a different way, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. And so through that experience myself, I learned, like, you know what? So what if it's not my Final Fantasy in that moment? Maybe sometime later down the road, maybe I'll find a different appreciation for it, or whatever the scenario is. This game is a Final Fantasy. I don't care, what kind of things you need to define what a Final Fantasy is, but it absolutely hits whatever the marks are for me. And I feel like most people in general, and I feel like a lot of the people who are out there saying this isn't a Final Fantasy are either like diehard about a certain numbered Final Fantasy that I won't say, or they haven't played them. They haven't like sat down and played all of them, because I've seen a lot of people say, oh, well, medieval, or there's nothing futuristic. And I'm like, if you're just looking at the base of what they're showing you in the trailers, if there's anything futuristic, they'll never show you that.
Right.
Like,
there's certain, like, I'm not, without going to spoilers, like, you guys don't know. Like what they showed in the trailers is like the first 6 hours of the game. There's certainly surprises atmospherically in this game, environmentally in this game. Like it's Final Fantasy. Like it is. Like I'm just gonna flat out say it's Final Fantasy. And I think anybody that's treating it otherwise is sort of being ignorant to a certain extent, where they don't want to approach it and they just kind of want to let it go and wait for the next one. And that's your prerogative. If you just want to skip this one and wait for the next one, that's totally fine. But I think you might be surprised, to those out there that aren't giving it a chance, I think you might be surprised how much history and legacy and homage and all this kind of stuff there is in this game to the entire Final Fantasy franchise. Easily you were about to go though.
You could tell this was made by people who love the series, people who have played it throughout the past 35 years. And I think that for me is where like it really captures me.
Easily, go ahead. Sorry, I think I cut you off.
No. I was going to say, the ones that say about, as you mentioned, the futurism in the game, to me, one of the single biggest Final Fantasies in terms of the feel of Final Fantasy, if you would put in quotation, is 9, which is probably one of the least futuristic games you will find. The OG Final Fantasies had no futurism to them whatsoever. It wasn't until you really got to what, 6, 7 kind of time they started picking up to that degree. So it's really not that at all to me. I feel that Final Fantasy stems from story, you stem from music, and you stem from overall feel of the game. You have elements that are consistent, such as your summoning rights, things like that, but it is the feel you get whilst playing it that defines whether it is that game. Because there are other games that do exactly the same, but they're not Final Fantasy. They don't hit the same. They don't feel the same because it's the music, it's the general vibe. It's just not there otherwise. This has that.
We talked about this in episode 1 too. You know, what is a Final Fantasy to you? If it was called Future Final, or Final Futuristic, then it would be Star Wars.
Right.
It's not meant to be Star Wars. Like this world of Final Fantasy, not actual world of Final Fantasy, but you know what I mean. A lot of it has a lot of medieval themes, like airships, steam engines in 9. Mist engines, but they have steam engines too. There's no talk of like gas or electricity. And even in 10, where they talk about, well, we did develop further and sin came, so now we are reduced to the most basic of the basics. 7, and I know when B was saying, like, I think somebody might have only played a certain numbered Final Fantasy.
Yeah, it's obviously 7, yeah.
It's 7, yeah. I know it's 7 because people, even if you aren't a huge fan of the whole series, where like you maybe haven't played some of the others, when 7 came out, that was such a big staple in history and gaming, right? And many people played 7 who have not played the other games. And I think it's unfair to compare every other single Final Fantasy with 7, because if that were the case, then no Final Fantasies are a Final Fantasy.
I mean, I'm probably
7's very different.
I'm probably the Final Fantasy VII fanatic here, right? Like I'm the guy.
Drew,
and,
7's Drew's favorite.
That's my favorite. That's what I got started on. And I think what's super weird about certain segments of the 7 fan base that do latch on to like, this is what Final Fantasy is. It's so weird to me because when 7 released, that was like the atmosphere surrounding it was, this is not Final Fantasy. Go back to medieval. Go back to 6. Go back to 1 through 5. 7 was such a weird departure for the franchise. Add on the fact that it abandoned Nintendo and everybody was all hyped up and angry about it going to PlayStation. That was a super polarizing moment in the Final Fantasy franchise. So these people, and I'm not even going to act like it's a majority. It's probably a vocal minority, right? But these people that act like 7 is what Final Fantasy was to be, it's like, yo, you are like so far outside of the history of Final Fantasy as a whole. If you think that is what Final Fantasy is, that's where it started, that's what it should be, you're just ignoring that Final Fantasy is what it is. It's whatever it wants to be, because that's what it's always been. It's always been this evolving thing, and if it weren't that, then it wouldn't be Final Fantasy anymore, And
that's the other thing that I feel like this is just so much more obvious because we have the internet, and it's not like we didn't have it then. But the same thing happened with FF9 because it went back to medieval after two like modern ones. And then the other one, and this is the one I've been using as an example, is like so many people love Final Fantasy Tactics. It's my personal favorite as well. That is nothing like any of the other games when it comes down to gameplay style, because some people go into how the game looks, and then sometimes people will go into, well, the gameplay, and I'm like, that's a strategy RPG. It's completely different from everything else.
Right.
The whole like core of Final Fantasy to me is that it's always doing something different, and I think that was achieved here.
Oh, it certainly is. I mean, it is the first real-time action, right? We've had sort of hybrids and we've had some approaches towards action, but this certainly is the first time where they went all in on action. And to a certain extent, like I'll admit that there are aspects of what I consider Final Fantasy that feel a little bit light in this game, a little bit missing. I think one of the things that Final Fantasy's changed a lot over the past 20, 30 something years actually. But one thing that is mostly held true is that you have a party of playable characters. The one outlier is 15, but even that one is certainly an outlier because it wasn't meant to be 15. It was versus 13. It was supposed to be a spin-off. So really, when you look at it that way, every Final Fantasy really has had a party. Even 13 does. You choose your Ravager. You're controlling your party through many means, and you can control their stats. You can change their gear. This is certainly light on that. Like I just noticed that I've had the same sword for a while in 16. I can't even upgrade it. Like it's certainly a little bit light on the RPG of it all, and not having a playable party does feel a little bit antithesis to what I've known Final Fantasy to be since the beginning for me. That doesn't mean it's not Final Fantasy, and it could mean it's where it goes moving forward and always is that way. We'll have to wait and see what they decide to do with the franchise, but it is something that I have to sort of, it's a pill that I have to swallow, I guess you could say, because I do miss a little bit of that depth in having multiple characters to control, upgrade, change their gear, all that kind of stuff. And same thing, 13.2, 13.3. I'm talking about the mainline original, I'm not talking about spin-offs or sequels or anything like that. I'm just talking about the mainline releases. But do you guys agree with that at all? Like, is there anything like be your furthest? Is there something where it's like, okay, I kind of do miss this?
I feel like the way of the story of 16, I'm not too bothered by the fact that it is technically single player. And I do feel there are moments where you do feel like you have a party. So I haven't been too bothered by it, but I also think I got over it because of 15. 15
Yeah.
also, I mean, you could kind of control your party, but I feel like it was also kind of,
You couldn't at launch for the most part. There was like some semblance of that, but they certainly added it
yeah.
later on. Maybe as a response to backlash. I don't know, but I actually have a poll. It's actually set to be later on, but I'm gonna jump to it now. Creative Business Unit 3 developed this game. A lot of the team behind Final Fantasy 14. You got Yoshi P as producer, of course. And I'm wondering where the franchise goes moving forward. One thing that I've always liked about Final Fantasy is that they do change between teams so often, but it does sort of feel like, okay, one team's kind of focused on 7 Remake right now in the Remake series. One team might be focused on 9 Remake, which we're going to get to. We're going to talk about potential for 9 Remake later on. Does this mean that Creative Business Unit 3 just continues to be the developer of like the mainline series and they also develop 17? Personally, I actually don't want that. I like when it changes teams because it results in that sort of evolution, right? And the big change that Final Fantasy to me is meant to have with each mainline release. Shoop, we haven't heard enough from you. Let's go to you first. Like, what do you think? Would you like the same team working on 16 to work on 17, or would you like, and if they do work on 17, they get to like, evolve what they've built, right, and make it even better, or would you rather it be a brand new team or a team from the past?
I mean, Yoshi P has already stated that that team probably is not going to be working on 17.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, either way, whatever they feel is best, I guess. But I wouldn't mind a different team working on it. You know, I think and we talked about this in the whole not my Final Fantasy thing. Every Final Fantasy is so different. Every Final Fantasy has its own thing that makes it so special. You know, with 8, it's the junction system. With 9, it's reverting back to the more medieval times. With 10, there's a lot in 10, but I'd be fine with a different team working on it. I'd be fine with the same team working on it. My thing is, I don't care what team works on it, as long as they're not spreading themselves so thin among a new mainline Final Fantasy or a spin-off Final Fantasy or a remake Final Fantasy. I don't want the same team working on so much shit at the same time, excuse my language, that the game quality itself suffers. So whichever team wants to work on it, as long as they're putting their full focus into that and not multiple Final Fantasy games at the same time.
What about you, Easily? What would you prefer?
Honestly, I kind of agree with Shoop there. I don't mind if it's the same team or not, but what I do want is it to have its own unique quality. As stated with all the games, they have their own unique thing. And in most parts, it will either be the way you level or the way you status, or not status, your stats change. And from materia to junction to your gear affecting your stats to the sphere grid to all of these different changes, in the most part, that is one key thing. And as long as there is something that makes it truly unique, I don't mind.
I also haven't gotten far enough into the game to really determine if I want to play a game similar to it. I've only gotten 2 hours into it, and you know, B, you talked about how you grew up on the turn-based games. So did I. I was very nervous. I was really scared, and I doubted myself a lot. Like, am I going to enjoy this game? I've never really gotten into action games, and I played 7 Remake once, and I was really bad at it. And I mean really bad at it because I didn't follow directions. I didn't understand the tutorial. I was rolling rather than dodging, and rolling, you don't charge your ATB gauge, so I couldn't perform any actions, and I didn't understand why. This is the first action game outside of maybe The Witcher 3 that just in the first 2 hours, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna like this. I'm gonna love this. And a big part of that is the accessibility. I've been using the accessories. I've used the one with the timely focus, where it
Timely
tells you
focus,
when,
yep.
when to dodge. I haven't used the others, like the ones that automatically evades, because I wanna practice evading on my own. Even if I have a little thing that tells me when to evade, I want to be able to do it myself. And I'd be very happy if they continued in the future, and I'm sure they will, because it's hard to backtrack on something like that, giving those accessibility options. You don't have to use them. You don't have to utilize them at all. But for people who are just getting into like action type games, I think I'd be very happy if they continued giving people that accessibility option.
Mm-hmm. No, it's great. I mean, there's no reason not to, right? I know a lot of people will go like the Dark Souls, like, oh, why don't they have easy mode on Dark Souls? That's one thing, but it's always great when games can be accessible to more people. And I think one of the great things that I brought up earlier is seeing how many people are playing Final Fantasy 16, and especially how many new people are playing Final Fantasy 16. It is reaching an audience that no other Final Fantasy has, and it's good for the franchise. I mean, it's good to have a bigger audience. It might mean some big changes, and it might mean that some of us need to deal with those changes and understand that the franchise is evolving as it always has.
I have seen in the more toxic corners of the internet people saying like, oh God, this is your first experience with Final Fantasy. This isn't a real Final Fantasy. Go back and play the old ones first. The more the merrier.
That
Like,
gatekeeping's the worst.
Yeah, but I didn't have people to talk about Final Fantasy with as a kid. Imagine like this installment is somebody's Final Fantasy VII. This is somebody's
Yep.
Final Fantasy VIII. Let them have that. And if they want to go back, they can. I mean, I haven't played 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, but I was never shamed for it, you know, when I was playing 7, 8, 9, and 10.
B, lastly to you, what would you like? Would you like the same division, or would you like them to switch it up? with 17.
I don't think I'm just going to say outright, I don't think it's going to be, because something that a lot of people haven't really been talking about is that at the end of this month, we're going to be hearing about the next 14 expansion.
Mm-hmm.
So, because FanFest is at the end of the month, I'm very lucky and I'll be there. I'm very excited. I went in 2018. Amazing time. I love Creative Business Unit 3. I think that it would be really cool to see someone entirely different pick it up.
Yeah.
And the one that I have my eyes on is the team that works on Octopath. I
Ooh.
think they could really bring something new to the table and maybe bring turn-based back.
It would be a ballsy move for sure, right? It's
would.
we've talked about it many times. It probably would be more risk than reward, I think. I think there's a little bit of a cycle going on where there's been such a lack of turn-based for such a long time in big AAA RPGs that there might be sort of like, oh my God, yes, like they're bringing turn-based back. It's sort of like there's this cycle, or it could completely smack them in the face where it's like, no, this is gone. AAA does not want this anymore, and it's a major failure. I think it would be really cool if they gave it a shot, though. I do think it would be really cool. Obviously, they probably would do something interesting with it, not just classic turn-based. They probably would do something really unique.
They'd have to innovate in some kind of way.
Yeah.
I mean, even I haven't played Dragon Quest, was it 11? The one that sometimes it actually switches over to from the 3D to the 2D,
right,
which I think is really, really, like, that's cool. And I've heard lots of really good things about that. I think that's something that maybe they could do. And I mean, you kind of see it incorporated in the pixel save characters in 16. Like, that's something that keeps it grounded for me. But I don't think it's going to be that team. I also don't think it's going to be Creative Business Unit 1. And because they're still going to be working on 7.
Oh yeah, they're busy.
Yeah, but I really want to see them put out one more unique title before all of them get too old and retire. Because that's
true.
where I get stuck. Like, I don't want that, because everyone's like, well, I want an 8 remake, I want a 10 remake, like, and I know we're going to talk about that, but like, I want to see them make something new. I would not want to be stuck remaking things for the rest of my life if I was a creative individual in that manner.
Right, and I think, go ahead.
Well, if we're being realistic, and I don't mean this in an insulting way. If anything, I find this, I mean, it's kind of like having a template in front of you. You know, if someone dies and someone leaves you their will, you can go and fulfill the things that need to be fulfilled as written, right? So, you know, 8 and 9 and 10, you already have a template. So if, God forbid, they do pass away or retire or whatever, at least other people, younger people, can pick it up and they can remake it.
That's kind of what happened with 7 Remake. I mean, the high level, of course, of 7 Remake, right. Katase, Nomura, you know, the classics. But really, the people working on 7 Remake largely are the people that grew up playing Final Fantasy VII. They're the ones that love it, grew up with it, and wanted to be a part of this remake. And as B was alluding to, that's the most important thing, is that this is what they want to do. If they're passionate about it, if this is where they find creativity, and I think 7 Remake did help a lot with that by them not doing a 1-to-1 remake. It allowed them to spread their wings and be like, I want to change things, combat, ATB, action hybrid, let's mess with the story. I think it actually probably helped them to be a little bit more creative and feel passion towards a project they're working on, because it really is their own thing. But that is the most important thing. They've got to be passionate. They've got to want to be making remakes. If they get to the point where they're just pushing these things out because remakes do well, then that's not good at all. I think we all can agree with that. And one thing I do want to echo, going back to 16 and the legacy that it honors, I'm going through the Pixel remasters right now for the first time in over 20 years, and there are so many things that I'm recognizing, whether it be the Dragoon at the very beginning in the exact stance as he is on the box art of 4, or even, and I can't go into specifics here, but what just happened to me in the game is I got to a moment where Cid's sort of mission changed. And B, you'll know what I'm talking about, where it's like we're going towards a new mission concerning the Mother Crystals, and when you break it down, it's basically Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
Right? It basically is. When you break it down, what their mission is kind of Final Fantasy VII with Mako reactors and stuff. So
I think I literally said that too at the
Yeah,
same point. Yeah.
it's kind of weird. Like I wonder if it's intentional or not. Even if it's not, it's okay. But like there are a lot of moments in the game where it's like, okay, this is Final Fantasy IV. Like there's a lot of Final Fantasy IV in this game. I feel like there's a lot of that. The atmosphere,
Kyan was
especially.
saying that too. There's a lot of 4 and 6 in there.
There's a lot
I
of 5.
Oh yeah, I haven't gotten there
Mhm.
yet, so I'll have to wait and see on that.
It
But
makes sense though. The director started on 5.
oh,
Did he
right,
really?
and a lot of
Yep.
the main staff, their favorite or in their top three is five. I noticed, so definitely a lot of five love with the staff, with the like the higher ups working on this one. So yeah, these are like everybody working on these games, like they've lived Final Fantasy. Like it's not like they're betraying it, and they're honoring it, and that this is what it means to honor it, is evolving it, and really excited to see where it goes. And I hope you enjoy the end as well, B. But let's kind of round up some of our stories here. One thing just to touch on real quick that I was kind of surprised about is that the game doesn't have a Japanese lip sync. I thought that was kind of interesting. Just it kind of echoes once again that like, wow, the franchise is really evolving and maybe becoming a little bit more Western focused, even in some ways, because PS5 in Japan not doing that great actually. It's pretty low numbers for PlayStation over there. They're Nintendo land over there in Japan now. So I wonder if Square Enix is like, okay, maybe we need to prioritize the West, and they're into more action focused and things like that. Do you think that's a possibility? Easily? What do you think?
Yeah, I think they're looking at the fact the Western audience is probably a lot larger than it once was, and maybe even more popular than their own, um, than the Eastern side of the world now.
Maybe
It
it
quite
is why
frankly
we
is now.
maybe it is why we have such amazing performances though, because they focused, right? They recorded, they motion captured, everything was with these actors. They really put themselves into these roles for the first time ever, voice actor and actor. And maybe that's why we have such amazing roles like Ben Starr as Clive. So something to
But
be said there, maybe.
you'd have to also wonder about the financial cost of the, because of how clean the lip sync is, the financial cost of re-lip syncing every character for the Japanese version, when all of these
Mhm.
characters are designed in a more British way. It's such a big change to do. It'd
They
probably
could
be very
certainly patch
expensive.
it. It could happen. They've done it before with other games. Ghost of Tsushima is one of the ones that comes to mind first. That's a Japanese samurai game, and it came out with an English lip sync first, but they did eventually release a Japanese lip sync for that game. So maybe they'll do the same with 16. But speaking of like the cost of the game, actually kind of segments into this perfectly, and also the PS5 sales. Even though PS5 is not doing that well in Japan, this is the fastest selling PS5 exclusive ever as of right now, with 336K in its first week. And for PS5, everywhere, 3 million plus copies, maybe even 3.5 now in its first week. That's huge. Considering the install base of PS5 is about 35 to 40 mil, that means 10% of owners of PS5 bought this game in the first week. I feel like that's amazing, actually.
Mm.
Hmm.
Like that's
Especially when
huge.
there was rumors of them being worried about how it was going to sell.
Mhm.
It's really
Because of
nice
it
to
being
see.
an exclusive for now, yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
be very curious about how much the demo increased sales last minute.
I
Very
I
curious
bet you
about
it
that.
did. I said it earlier. I think it really helped them out a lot because their pre-order numbers were announced, rumored as being soft prior to that demo. That
That
demo
was
released,
it was a huge game changer, yeah.
yeah. So that might have been a huge marketing move on their part. And what's kind of ironic about it is there were two mindsets behind the demo. One was we should release the first 2 hours and get people hooked on the story. And then there was the other mindset of no, we got to get them in on the action. Let's give them a vertical slice that gets them the feel of moving and using all the icons. And they were like, all right, let's just do both. And really what I think got people more than the action in the vertical slice, I do think it was the first 2 hours and that cliffhanger ending is I think what got people like hooked on wanting to play this game.
I mean, you want to talk about statistics. 50% of the people on this podcast right now got a PS5 just to play this game.
Oh, my entire friends list, like on PS5, and as you said on Twitch as well, everybody's playing this game. It's crazy.
No, I was talking about like out of the 4 of us, 50% of us got a PS5 just for this game.
That's true. It's actually
Yeah.
now you say that,
Yeah.
yeah. PS5 selling.
Technically, we got our PS5 a year ago, but because we were like, oh my God, there's one. We got to get it because this game's coming out. So it was ahead of time, but I think, the amount of people I know personally that went out and bought one on their own because the demo looked good and they watched other people's reactions. It was probably about like 5, which I think is a lot for
It
just, like,
is.
people I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a big deal. PS5 ain't cheap.
Well,
I know personally 5 streamers that had no intention of playing 16 and
Mhm.
watched the demo and now all play it.
I know I've been telling several people to get it that don't play Final Fantasy because I'm like, this is one that I think you might really like. Like, I just give it a shot. At least play the demo. It's free. Just play the demo. See what you think of that, because you were super into Game of Thrones. Like, you're gonna vibe with this. Like, it's got some cool Game of Thrones vibes and things like that. Let this be your first. All right.
I will say that
Okay.
I'm no stranger to getting a console based on a Final Fantasy game. So
Yeah.
like when 10 came out, I was given my my aunt's hand-me-down PS1 because they got a PS2 just to play Final Fantasy X, my aunt and my uncle. And then when the Final Fantasy IX remaster came to console, I went out and bought a PS4 that same day.
That's so funny to me that you bought PS4 for a remaster of a PS1
I did.
game.
I absolutely did.
That's great.
And I have to add, though, that's the coolest thing about this, though, is all of the new people who are getting into this, if they enjoy it, what's the next step? They go back and they play another one.
Hopefully.
And then they get hooked and they start playing them and then they're invested. And what do you have coming out in like 6 to 9 months? Another
Rebirth.
Final Fantasy. So like that's incredible marketing. Like I think they did a wonderful job.
All right. Are we good to move on from 16? Any final words that anybody wants to share?
Just one thing.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of people are saying the game is like 60, 70, 80, 90 hours, whatever it is.
Okay.
And that's purely, obviously, because they're visiting around. The really interesting part to me is I know a lot of people who are now speedrunning it in 8 hours.
What? Already? Speedruns are happening?
8 hours, 20 minutes, something like that. I haven't watched it. I don't know how, but it shows that the story is about normal. It's just all the extra stuff.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, active time lore.
Yeah, seriously. Gonna have a hard time skipping that. I kind of want to replay the game just so I can make sure I do all the active time lore again. But anyway, we actually had it's crazy that this happened in the past month since the last episode. It feels like months ago, but we got a new 7 Rebirth and a new 7 Ever Crisis trailer last month at Summer Games Fest. I'll put it up on screen, and we can kind of just talk about our just our expectations, maybe our vibes coming off of it. Let's go to you first, Shoop, actually. What did you think? I think we watched it together, didn't we? It was all of us. Easily. It was
All
a
3 of
Crystal
us,
Bears
yeah.
React. Yeah. Let's start with you, Shoop. What did you think of that 7 Rebirth trailer?
It was really nice to see things outside of Midgar, I didn't see the Ever Crisis one, so I can't really comment on that. But
Yeah, this is Ever Crisis on screen right now, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think that there's like a dual timeline, personally. I know a lot of people are thinking. You don't think so either, B?
Yeah, no, never did.
I think there might be some kind of dreams or flashes of like what could be, but I don't think there's a dual timeline, personally, even though I know a lot of people are speculating that there is based off that trailer.
Yeah, obviously we're kind of getting into spoiler territory here, but
yeah.
I assume then you think that Zack is in the same timeline as Cloud. You think that Zack just survived in this change and now they're in the same timeline.
I don't know. I don't know. And I also want to kind of say that, as Drew, I know you love 7 so much. I've only played OG 7 once all the way through. And I don't have like fond memories of it. So I need to go back and play the original 7 again.
Yeah.
To really speculate.
B, you're the same though. You don't think based on that start, like the start of the trailer, 7 Rebirth trailer was like we saw our team all laying there, maybe dead, like being loaded into helicopters. Is it a Shinra fake out?
It could
You know,
be. Yeah,
propaganda.
I think that there's propaganda. I think there's a lot of red herrings, even just in the dialogue you hear in the trailer. Because I've seen people like nitpicking over that. I remember somebody was like, I heard Vincent in there, and I was like, no, that's Rufus.
Yeah.
I know that voice. Like, that's Rufus. They're
Hmm.
not, when they reveal Vincent, they'll reveal him hard.
Oh
Because
yeah.
they know, like, that's a specific thing. But yeah, I've never thought it was. For a really long time, I thought they were doing something more along the lines of, it's spoilery, so I don't want to talk about it, but I just always figured things are not quite what they seem with Zach. And I do think that there's a lot of like Genova shenanigans going
Yeah,
on.
Decreasement said the same thing in chat. Yeah, hijinks,
Mhm.
Genova hijinks.
Hijinks, yeah.
Yeah. You never know. That's like par for the course with 7, right? It's just mind efferys, Sephiroth or Genova or both at the same time, messing with Cloud's mind, showing us things that aren't real. Certainly could be the case here. And Nomura too. Let's be honest.
Mhm.
Nomura loves to mess with us. So there could be a lot of red herrings in this trailer. But really the thing that I was more focused on than anything else was our first view at the world. And I was like, holy crap, that looks so beautiful and colorful. As I said, 16 is beautiful. I love the world. It looks really nice. But seeing that, I was, oh, the color, it's so pretty, and the way they run through the forest and the way they're looking over the ocean at the one part, I was like, holy
Them
crap.
all on the chocobos.
Oh,
Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
it was
Chocobo
nice to see the
Farm,
chocobos.
Junon. I was kind of surprised we didn't see Costa del Sol, but it's okay. There was just a lot there. Easily, go ahead.
I literally said in my stream when the PS5 got told that I was getting it, I said, I'm really grateful, but do you know what this means? It means I can play Rebirth. Wasn't that I could play 16? And 16, I don't get me wrong, so far I love it. It is phenomenal. I am very happy with it.
Mhm.
But it's 7 Rebirth, like just watching that trailer did something to me more than the thought of playing 16, and seeing it visually, it just captivates a lot more for me personally. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm at.
I
No, I
did
get
want to
it.
kind of like
Yeah.
mention that when we reacted to that trailer, something we all kind of noticed was like Aerith in the background or certain characters in the background, and we were wondering if maybe, and I want to know B's thoughts on this, if they're gonna bring back swapping out characters into battle, kind of like in 10.
I noticed that too, because there's that one specific one where you can see it's like Tifa in red, but in the background is Aerith and
Mhm.
like one maybe Barrett or something like that. That would be so cool. I
I
I
would
would
I would
love
love
that.
that. Yeah,
I
yeah.
honestly, I
Yep.
think that's what's going on myself. It makes sense for the system that they've developed to be able to do that. And we have heard rumors that they are looking at 12's gambits as a sort of inspiration. And that made me nervous at first because if I'm being honest, I hate gambits. But if the gambits are for the 2 or 3 party members that are off on the sidelines for the moment that they're off on the sidelines, and then you can switch back and forth and bring them in and apply the gambits to other characters when they go to the sidelines, that's cool. I like that a lot. So there is a way that they can make that work in a really cool way.
I will say that Gambits will allow for those who are not as heavy action based, who are not as versatile with all their characters, to be able to utilize those characters. So as long as it's not overly heavy, I think it will actually be a very good thing.
Mhm. Sorry for my hot take. To clarify, it's not necessarily that I hate the idea of gambits. I think it's cool the way the AI works in the game, and I think it's really cool that how deep it can go. Like, but that's also the detriment to it, in my opinion, is that the game clearly wants you to use them, and you can very quickly use them to the point that the game plays itself. And I went through that entire game, even some super bosses, without touching the controller. And that is not Final Fantasy to me. So that's just my personal opinion. That I felt like when I tried not to use the gambits, it felt like the game was telling me this is not the way you're supposed to play. You're supposed to use gambits. And then when I use gambits, it's like, but now I'm not playing. Now the game's just
I'm kind of looking forward to when I get to 12 because
yeah.
I haven't played any more than 5 minutes of it, and that was when I was a kid. And I kind of, because it's polarizing. I know a lot of people who love it, and I know a lot of people who don't love it, and I wanna experience it for myself and see how
Yeah.
I feel about it.
The
That's
reason
why the
good.
16 hate feels like nothing right now. I'm like,
Mhm.
I have lived years now of being a 12 fan, and 12 is always on the people, like, bottom of people's lists. I feel like maybe the past 2 years I've gotten really lucky and I've met a bunch of people who are like, 12 is top tier. And I'm like, where have you guys been? Like, this whole time.
There's definitely a very passionate fan base for 12. It's why it's the most polarizing, because I feel like I'm either hearing that it's like your top three or your bottom three. I feel like is what I'm usually hearing with that one. So there's definitely a lot of love for it. And I think that there's a way to make gambits work. I really do. I think that it's a cool concept, and I think it could work in 7 Rebirth the way I was just saying. It's just when they first announced that they were looking at gambits, my first thought was the whole point of 7 Remake's combat system is that you're not supposed to let the other characters control themselves. You're supposed to be treating it like turn-based. ATB. That's the cool hybrid of 7 Remake, is that if you just let the other characters play themselves, their ATB bars are going to load extremely slow. They're not going to aggro. Like, the whole point is you're supposed to be constantly switching between characters in 7 Remake, issuing commands, growing their ATB, and aggroing with those characters. That is the essence of the combat system. So
or just do what I did and roll around on the floor and wondering why.
Right, and I
ATB is
don't
not
blame you.
charging.
I can agree that maybe the game didn't do a very good job of telling you that how you are quote unquote supposed to play it.
That was my issue. Like, I think for me personally, and maybe I just missed something, but I don't think it gave me a tutorial straightforward enough that was like, hey, here's what you need to do. Here's what you probably shouldn't do.
Did 12 have a 40? I thought 12 didn't have a 40.
Nope.
I know everybody talks about 13 too having 40, but really I thought 12 had a
No,
39.
Nope. Yeah, what did 16 have again? I remember.
39.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so that was the first one in, they said 17 years mainline.
Yeah.
And what came out 17 years ago? FF12.
Yeah, it's funny because whenever a new Famitsu score comes out, it's always, well, it's not as good as 13 too. So they're never going to live that down. They gave 13-2 a perfect 40 out of 40.
Yeah,
But
that one's something else.
yeah, I mean, I like 13-2 if I'm being honest with you. But yeah, it's definitely, I wouldn't call it a perfect 40 out of 40. I'll skip over the Ever Crisis stuff just because I want to move on to.
Well, I will say, you know that the beta unlocks tonight, right?
Yeah, I have signed up for it, so I should get it.
Oh, I did not
So-
I actually did not know that it's releasing tonight, and you're
11
signed up. Are
PM.
you getting in on it easily, or are you waiting to find out?
I haven't had anything saying yes unless it's in my spam, but hopefully I will have access to it. It should auto download, I believe.
It should have auto downloaded already.
Let me
Most
see.
likely. I can link you some stuff.
I should have it if so.
I'm super excited for the idea of Ever Crisis, but they gotta release it on console. I'm not gonna play this thing
Yeah.
on the phone. I'm not.
Also, do you have Android or iOS? Because it's Android release only today.
Oh, I'm iOS myself.
Yeah.
I'm Android.
Oh, there you go.
Well, easily you'll have fun with it. I've never played any Final Fantasy mobile games, so
You'll have to be our one crystal bear that's playing Ever Crisis, I guess.
Hopefully, anyway. I will definitely. It hasn't downloaded, but I do have it ticked for auto install and early access.
Mhm.
So if I have it, I will have it tonight then.
Yeah, 11 p.m. EST is when it's supposed to release.
Okay. Well, I will let you guys know if it's any good when I get it.
Sounds good.
Easily going to be playing it at 5 in the morning.
So
Probably,
B, I'm
yeah.
looking at the clock. I see that it's 8:21. I think we might be able to get through this story here if we kind of keep it concise, because we're going to save the Final Fantasy IX remake discussion for like the big topic, because it is the anniversary, as we found out, of Final Fantasy IX's Japanese release. But that is not the only remake that is being rumored right now, and this just kind of blew my mind. I never in a million years would have thought this was going to pop up online, but there are some people going around saying, insiders quote unquote, that Final Fantasy X is already in development as a remake targeted at 2026 to try and hit that 25-year anniversary. Shoop, you're our diehard here. I'll go to you. Oh, wait, go ahead, Eve.
No, I want to hear what Shoop has to
Okay,
say.
okay, yep.
I want it, but I don't want it yet.
Well, that's a long time.
It is a long time. You're right. You guys know I love 10. It's my second favorite game of all time. Very, very, very close right behind 9. My name is from Final Fantasy X.
Yeah.
I've platinumed the game on multiple platforms. I've lived and breathed Final Fantasy X for forever. I would be delighted for a remake. I would play the absolute hell out of it. I would probably put as many hours into it as I have the original. I don't know if it needs it as much as maybe some others. I feel like 10 to this day, while the voice acting might be considered dated, it has voice acting, whereas 1 through 9 does not. It has these motion characters. It has incredible story. It still has incredible graphics, even in the HD remaster, whereas like they've changed some of their faces, and I'm not too happy about Yuna's in particular. But it holds up so well on its own. Like, even if you look at like Twitch statistics of viewership numbers, anytime somebody plays 10, their numbers skyrocket because it's such a comfort game for so many people. So many people love watching 10. So many people love playing 10. I think 7 and 7 Remake, of course, and obviously right now with 16 doing the best on Twitch, I think 10 is always up there as well, just because it's such a nostalgic piece of gaming. It was the first Final Fantasy that came to PS2. It was a lot of people's first introductory into Final Fantasy. But it holds up so well in 2023 on its own.
I agree.
I don't think it needs it as much as probably, and I know we're going to talk about this already, but I would say 8. I think of all the games that I'd like to see a remake would be for 8.
I agree.
Me too.
I'm with
Me
you
too.
there. So here's the thing about 10. Go ahead,
I
B.
was just gonna say, I don't want them changing the voice acting, because that to me is what is such a huge part of it. And if they go and redo it, which I do believe, I actually do firmly believe this one, because it's not the first time the rumor has been put out there. But a lot of those people are too old for those roles.
Yeah.
Like Tara Strong is probably getting close to 50s to be doing Riku as like a 15-year-old. It just feels really weird, but I don't feel like it would be the same for
I
me.
think she could pull it off, of being honest. She really, she voice acts a lot still to this day, and she sounds amazing. She still pulls off all those different cadences. The one that I would be most worried about is James Arnold Taylor. Not just because of the maturation, but also he's also a little bit problematic as a person. There's been some stuff that's come out about him that might want people many people might not want him to be in this anymore because of that.
I wanted to actually kind of mention a lot of these voice actors in 2001 probably didn't require the salary that they would require now, because a lot of them really made their name well known.
John DiMaggio, for example.
John DiMaggio being one of them.
Yeah.
Tara Strong as well. Like, Tara Strong, while she was working on a lot of things back then, she's known for Timmy Turner. She's known for Bubbles and Powerpuff Girls. She's known for countless roles.
Harley Quinn,
yeah. But I agree with B. I wouldn't want the voice acting to change. If Matt McKenzie isn't Orin, I don't want it.
I'm actually on the other end. If they're gonna do it, I kind of want them to go all in and redo all the cinematics, motion capture, go the Final Fantasy 16 route. And if you're gonna do that, you've got to record it. You can use the same voice actors potentially, but they should get the actors to perform these roles. Be the character. Motion capture it, voice act it, go all in, cinematography, the whole deal. Make this a level up on 10, because 10 still looks amazing. And if they were to just upscale it to 4K 60 or something like that and redo the graphics in that way, the game looks great already. It doesn't need that. It really does look really nice to this day. I think if you're going to do it, you've got to go all in and really make it a step above 10. What do you think, Easley?
I believe it's real. I personally would like them to completely redo the entire thing if they're going to do it. Because to me, 10 currently is the best introduction to a Final Fantasy game. If you were to say, you've never played one before, go for this. Has a nice learning curve, good way in, nice voice acting, nice graphics for how old it is. And you know what? If they're going to redo it, at the end of the day, you still have the original to play. It's not gone. you just get a new version, and maybe that's a nice new thing, a new audience. It's just, it's not needed, but it could be fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm
I-
team real. I think it's real, but I want.
Me
I
too,
don't know.
actually. I'm team real. I actually think this is happening. I
think
do.
we're 4
It makes
on
sense to
real.
me because 10, if you are talking about sales and popularity, if you're talking about in a worldwide scenario, 10 is right up there. Like
Mhm.
probably number 2. It's probably 7 and then 2.
It, like a couple of years back before the remake came out for 7, 10 was number 1 most
Yeah.
popular in Japan until remake came out and kind of like put 7 at the top again.
One thing I will say, bringing up 7, I don't think they separate this into parts. If they're doing 10, 10 is an extremely linear game, and it already has all those elements incorporated, right? It's got the cinematics, it's got the cutscenes, it's got the voice acting. I don't think they really need to expand on it in a way that enlarges the game to be multiple parts. I still think you can get away with it being one game releasing faithful to the original, and when I say faithful, I mean turn-based. Because I do think if you're gonna do 10, this is one scenario where I do think you need to do turn-based. Maybe they evolve it in some way. Maybe they do some cool twist on it, but it's got to be turn-based. That's my opinion. What do you think, B? Got to be turn-based?
Yeah, oh yeah. I think they got to keep the same style. And I think they realistically could. I was also going to add, personally, I don't recommend 10 as the first one because I used to. And I've noticed a lot of people have a hard time going backward to the older games. So my new recommendation as of like the past 6 months is Final Fantasy IV. I think that shows you the medieval side of it, just like all the wacky Final Fantasy stuff. I think it's fairly short. I beat the game when I was 4 years old, so I'm like, anyone can do it as long as you're not playing the 3D version. I don't recommend that.
I had fun with the 3D version. I played it in
I love it.
2021. It was really good.
But it can be rough for some if you're not, especially if you're used to the older versions of it. But yeah, no, I think 4 is my favorite one to start. I also have to go.
Yep.
Which
Yep. I was about to say, yep, I totally understand.
But I'm just going to add on for FF9 because I know you guys are going to go into this. I am team I don't think it's real.
Okay.
And I do have valid reasons as for why. I think the Memoria project was proof that it does not exist. I think that even though it wasn't playable, I don't think Square would have been as involved. And so as a result, like they weren't technically involved, but you know, they work with Alex McCullough, they have relationships with a lot of these people. I think that was the signal. What I do hope happens is that Square sees that and they go, hey, to that team, because that's the 9 remake that I want. I don't think if they presented anything else to me right now, I would be into it. Because that nailed it for me. The Memoria
It was beautiful.
project.
We
Which we will talk
watched,
about.
Drew and I watched it together on stream, and we both said the exact same thing. If it's anything less than what Memoria Project was, we don't want it.
Yep.
And I honestly, I think if they are making it right now, I don't think it's going to be quite to that level because this was a team that spent, well, hobby hours, granted, but still, they spent like 3 years making a 20-minute slice. That's you can't. That's a lot. I don't think they're going to put that kind of work into 9 remake if it actually is real. But B, I don't want to hold you up any longer. I do know you have to get out of here, but it was an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much, and I hope we can have you back on again.
Yes. Hopefully with more time to talk. I'm so sorry.
Well, we
No,
were
go.
able to dive into 16 pretty deep though. That was good.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you
Thanks for
guys.
joining
All
us,
right.
B.
Farewell, B.
Bye, B.
Everybody, go
Take
follow
care.
B. She's amazing.
I don't think shout outs are working in chat. Rose tried to do shout outs and they weren't working.
Just do / shout out. Do the Twitch shout out.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Any other comments on 10 remake before we wrap up our level update here? Thank you for the shout out.
Sorry, I was typing.
I was wondering. I don't think I heard from you guys. B also agreed it needs to be turn based. You guys agree it needs to be turn based?
Oh yes.
Yeah. I think that's one of the parts that sets that game truly apart.
Well, it was. I mean, we had ATB from 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 and 9, And then 10 was the first game that went back to true turn-based, you know,
Yeah,
and
you
and
can't
I
get
think
much better turn-based, can you?
no, and I think and I know B said, you know, it is harder for people when they're first recommended to play 10 as their first one to go back and play the older ones. I've noticed that too, that people that I've even recommended, oh, you should play 10 first as an introductory, they do struggle with the ATB gauge. But I feel like maybe they would do better playing, you know, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3,
Mm-hmm.
because there's no ATB gauge. But um, it's true turn based. You have a list on the side of your screen
Oh yeah.
of whose turn is coming up next, what is going to take more energy to perform that turn. If you want more turns or you want to put in more energy and get less turns, like there's nothing more turn based than
Yeah, I
that.
love that about it too. It's not like Final Fantasy 1 through 3 where you choose all of your moves literally with all 4 characters
And they go
prior,
in whatever order they
and then they
want.
go in whatever order. Like 10
Yeah.
allows you to manipulate the turns to a certain extent. And I think that adds a really cool layer to 10 that makes it one of my favorite combat systems in the entire series. And I think it also shows that turn-based can be really exciting and fun and deep. And I think that they could do further twists on that to make it feel fresh. And I don't know if there's some way they can incorporate action into it as well, in a sort of hybrid nature. But I do think they've got to find some way to hold on to the turn-based
Well,
wheel and all that.
you say it's deep, but at the same time, it's also very straightforward. Let's look at Riku when she joins the party. She has the highest agility of the entire cast. So obviously, if she's, you know, in your party of 3, when you run into a battle, she's going to be the person with the first turn because she has the highest agility. I feel like it's a great way to introduce people to RPGs in general, as far as things like strength, defense, agility, going into D&D, you know, like intelligence, wisdom, things like that, magic defense. It's a great way to get people to understand stats in RPGs.
Mm-hmm. We'll have to wait and see. I personally think that both remakes are real, but we'll get to that a little bit later on. We're way behind, so let's jump into our next segment of the show, you guys. It is time for the question of the month. You guys can get on our Discord at discord.gg/Droogle. When you sign up, it does give you the option to choose just Crystal Bearers channels or all channels on the Discord. And we have a dedicated channel for answering the question of the month. This month, the question is, what is a moment in Final Fantasy that hooked you to the point that you knew you had to go all the way? Maybe you were losing interest in the story, and this was the moment that brought you back. Maybe it was the first Final Fantasy you ever played, and this was the moment that made you know you'd be a fan for life. Feel free to take the question where you want. We got a lot of great responses here. I think we'll go a little roundtable style. I'll start with the first one that came in from Hoshi, who said, I grew up with 2 older brothers. At the age of 4, I watched them play Final Fantasy VII and Tactics. A year later, I decided to play 2. I was more hooked with Tactics because of the gameplay and job class system, but what really made me hooked was how much depth the character has. Ramza was always my guiding light, staying true to your beliefs and never surrendering your path to what's right no matter what. I know it's strange to think a 5-year-old thought that way, but I am what I am. When I played the remaster, War of the Lions, it made me know for sure. Final Fantasy will always have a place in my heart, and when Dissidia finally put Ramza in the roster, the words "Fortune be with you" is my ultimate greeting as a Final Fantasy fan. Knowing there is still love for OG Tactics will never dissuade my heart from Final Fantasy. See, I've never played Tactics or any Dissidia or anything like that, so I didn't know. Hoshi always says, "Fortune be with you" when he pops in chat. I didn't know that was a reference until he made this post, so that's actually kind of cool. But that's great. Hoshi, I love that. And I can't wait to play Tactics myself because I never have.
I haven't played it either. I really want to play it.
Easily. Take the next one, please.
I am going to do Zarkanos. So Zarkano says, the moment I knew I was hooked was discovering there was a character like me. Seeing Squall struggle with loneliness and isolation, but not wanting to be alone, really made me think about my own struggle. I never knew playing Final Fantasy VIII in middle school could make me see myself so much in a video game character. It made me start making connections with other characters. I knew other main/side characters had their struggles, but none hit me as much as Squall's. So it was the playthrough of 8 then.
That's cool. I love people that love 8 for some reason, just because it does get a lot of hate. So I love 8 love.
I feel
I
like
relate to that a lot.
Yeah.
yeah, and I feel a lot of especially teenage males when they play that really do that. I think that's what draws them into 8 personally because they can relate to a character straight away.
Mm-hmm. Shoop, your turn.
Are we
Oh,
going in order?
no, whatever one you want. Go ahead and grab one.
Okay, I was like, hold on, wait, I thought we were going in order.
Easily decided to jump around, so you jump around.
Yeah,
too.
I went down.
All right, I'll jump right to you. I'm gonna take number 4. This is from my friend Rex. Rex said, I fell immediately in love with Final Fantasy X, not only the first time I played it, but when I actually came in contact with it. I was in elementary school and started being a fan of gaming magazines at that time. Most of them had those DVDs with video guides, previews, and so on coming with them. That's when I saw the gameplay of Final Fantasy X for the first time. Back then, it was 2 little guides for the Besaid and Kilika Temple and a review about the game. Really not that much, but the sound, ambiance, and looks of the game got me so damn hooked I couldn't explain it myself. When I got to play the demo, 2 little segments, with one being the Xanarkand intro and the other being the way from Besaid Village to the docks, I was already obsessed with it and replayed it over and over again, day in and day out, until my 9th birthday finally arrived. I knew my mom would get it for me, but sitting there early in the morning playing finally the real deal and putting it on pause until I returned from school, PS2 times, and I had no memory card for the first half of the day. Those are some of the purest memories I still have left of my childhood. Since I matured rather fast after elementary, and well, life happened, Final Fantasy X and Spira will always be my happy place and one of my fondest memories.
Yeah, that brings me back because I
nice.
specifically remember those demos. I think I got it with official PlayStation magazine, but I played those demos so many times, especially the one to Besaid Village because the music. Oh my god. To this day, Besaid is one of my favorite relaxing songs in Final Fantasy. And that's where it originated. My love for it was playing that demo so many times and listening to that song over and over and over again.
I didn't play the demo, but I can relate to not having a memory card because, like I said earlier, that my aunt and uncle got a PS2 just for for Final Fantasy X.
You good easily?
Yeah, I'm just literally grabbing something as a demonstration. I'll literally be carry on. I'll literally be 5 seconds.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
But we only had one PS2 memory card. I had my PS1, but if I wanted to play, I had to play in the living room. And I was not allowed to have any save files because I was a kid. They didn't want me like saving over their files. So I never saved. I would just play the beginning of 10 over and over again until I finally got to like play the full game myself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sorry. I had to get something.
Welcome back.
Okay. So in the UK, some of them had it in magazines. Some of them had them in game cases.
Demos.
Okay. So this is my case for 7.
Is that your platinum copy?
This is my platinum copy of 7, right? This is what comes in 7. You get one of those books. You get the discs like that, okay? And then I'm going to turn to where disc 3 lives, okay? Because where disc 3 lives has something else next to it. Disc 3 is silver. There's something next to it. And that happens to be
The 8 demo.
the 8 demo.
Yeah,
And
Square
what is
Enix or Squaresoft is
interesting-
no noob to that. They did that a lot.
And the interesting thing, though, some people played demo where they had certain summons against in the Dalek mission. I had Leviathan on that one. Some people had a different summon, but
Huh.
I had Leviathan, and I didn't have Renoa in my party, but some people did.
The US
So-
demo, I believe, that was passed out from Pizza Hut, I think, had Renoa in your party for the Dale mission.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I always bring this up, so sorry if I'm reiterating, but it's ironic. 12, the demo for it, was a part of Dragon Quest VIII, and that is the only reason I bought Dragon Quest VIII was to get the Final Fantasy 12 demo. And yeah, ironically, it's my least favorite of the
I
Final
didn't
Fantasies.
know that.
Yeah, Dragon Quest VIII came with it back in the day. And then the demo for Final Fantasy 13 came with Advent Children Complete, the Japanese version. So I imported Advent Children Complete from Japan so that I could play the Final Fantasy 13 demo. And Type Zero HD, I bought that for the 15 demo, episode
I
Duske.
knew about Type Zero's demo.
Yeah,
I knew that one.
yeah.
Drew, you want to read the next one?
Yeah, sure. I'll do the next one. Let's see. Let's go to Nerd Smash. Even though Final Fantasy VIII was my first and favorite, it didn't hook me into the series since it was the only one I had played. When I finished 8, I moved on to more RPGs since I assumed they were all like this one and was surprised how wrong I was. Once my neighbor finished playing Final Fantasy VII, we swapped games so he could play 8 and I got into a whole new tale. Since I was young and didn't research any, I was surprised how different they were, and yet had something similar, characters and a compelling plot. Once I beat 7, I began to research finally and got really confused with 1 through 6, since at the time not all were accessible for me or numbered wrong. Looking at you, Final Fantasy 2 and 3 for the Super Nintendo, and decided to look ahead. Final Fantasy 9 was coming out soon. I think this was the moment I realized that I would be hooked to these games if they could do what 8 and 7 did for me. Sadly, I never beat 9. My PlayStation broke during the fight with Trance Kuja hilariously while he was casting Ultima. So I felt bittersweet about it, and is why I remember it the least of the series. Looking forward to playing it again. But I think the more potent I'm hooked moment was getting a new PS2 and buying Final Fantasy X when it came out and falling head over heels again. So maybe it was the research and realization phase that got me, but if not, it was freaking Final Fantasy X that had me looking forward to more and more for sure. 8, 10, and 7 are my top 3, and my addiction now has me committed to playing them all and reevaluating to see how they all stand afterwards. Now 16 is on the horizon. What a time to be alive, and a crystal bearer. Smash on. What a time to be alive.
I look forward to having one of these moments in 16, actually, because, I think there are going to be lots of up and downs. We talked about the lulls and the highs, but I think there are going to be moments in 16 where, like, oh, I don't know if I can play this. This hurts, or, oh, I'm so emotionally lost right now. And there's going to be those moments in 16 where, like, okay, I got to keep going for this character,
Mm-hmm. Let's do one more. Shoot, want to do it? One more?
Yeah, let's read. I'm going to read Willis Maximus.
Decimus Meridius.
Yes, I was going to make this one about 13, but something else just popped in my head. This one is a bit funny too, but serious nonetheless. A moment in a Final Fantasy game that had me hooked instantly. This moment exists in Final Fantasy XIV. I had just gotten my new PC, was poking around for an MMO to play. I had some previous one I played, Mabinogi, I'm probably going to pronounce these wrong, Vindictus, and then Terra, but none of them actually caught my attention that hard. I was seeing a bit of news about Final Fantasy XIV at the time, and it's like a bell went off in my head. I can play an MMO with all my favorite things from Final Fantasy games. So I decided to give it a try and bought the game up to Shadowbringers for $40. A hell of a deal in my opinion. I had 45 days of free play time until I had to sub. Needless to say, it only took me 15 days to decide I would be invested that heavy. This MMO was unlike anything I'd played before. The detail was so well done. The story was actually interesting to start. A Moogle stole a bottle of alcohol and drank it on the Chocobo caravan. And it had the exact charm of the Final Fantasy games that I loved. Now for the funny part, though. The one thing that I experienced in the game that I knew was going to catch me. I was walking by some seating-looking area in Gridania at the tavern and saw someone on the bench. I thought this was an NPC, but after some further inspection, I realized it was a player character. I then walked over to the bench, used the sit emote, and my mind was blown. My character actually sat on the bench with a realistic action and positioning. It was at that moment that I could feel the entire world of Eorzea was alive. I knew that then I would be hooked to this game, perhaps for the rest of either my or its life. Now here I am, 3 years later, still playing it like it was new. Even at Endgame as well, the first MMO I've ever done that with. That's kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh, this is probably just an NPC sitting here. And it's like, no, somebody's just sitting on the bench admiring the view.
Mm-hmm. Real quick, I don't normally do this, but Hoshi, you need to spell Droogle, Shupor easily. And Rose, if you're in chat, I think Rose might be here. If you could please refund Hoshi his 1,000 pom-poms, I'd appreciate that.
If not, I can do it, but
yeah, thank you.
See if...
Lots of great responses, though. Thank you so much, you guys, for taking part in this month's Question of the Month. We will be posting a new one over the next week or so on the Discord at discord.gg/Droogle. So jump on there now. You can just choose the Crystal Bearers channels if that's what you want, or you can be a part of all the channels on my server. It's up to you. And with that, now we can move on to the big one, you guys. It is time for the topic of the month. And our topic of the month is, as we've alluded to, the Final Fantasy IX Remake has been heavily rumored, probably for 2 years now, I want to say. Ever since the NVIDIA GeForce leak, it has been heavily rumored, but in the past month and a half, there have been many very trusted insiders that have come out and said, yeah, I've seen it. Like, I've literally seen the game. I know what it looks like. It's very pretty. It's not 7 Remake. It's more Crisis Core Reunion style, maybe a little bit more than Crisis Core Reunion as far as like how much of a, visual upgrade it is. But there are several very trusted insiders that are saying that they have seen this game. So first off, before we even jump into any discussion, do we believe it? Easily. Do you believe there's a 9 remake coming? B does not. B does not think a 9 remake is coming because of Memorial Project.
Honestly, the Memorial Project is what made me believe that it was not real.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the fact that Square allowed it to be put where it was, to me suggested that they were not interested in doing a remake themselves anytime soon. Prior to that, I very, very, very much believed that a 9 remake could happen and was happening. And as of right this moment, I don't mind if it is or it isn't, but I would like to know a factual answer.
Right.
That's where I'm at. I just want to know yes or no.
So according to the insiders, this was supposed to be announced a long time ago. Like this has been in the works for a long time. COVID messed everything up and this game got majorly delayed. And also they decided that they needed to make it more of an upgrade, supposedly, than it originally was being targeted to be. So they decided they were going to take it like another step higher in the remaster versus remake debate, more towards remake than remaster, is what I've read, at least. Now, well, first, shoot, what do you think? Real? Fake?
I want it to be real. I would love for it to be real. Y'all know 9 is my favorite game of all time.
Your 2 favorite games of all time might both be making remakes right now.
I know. It wasn't until maybe less than 20 minutes ago when B said because they allowed the release of Memorial Project. I didn't even think about it like that. I thought about it as like a testing ground. Like,
I agree. That's how I think of it too. I think they kind of looked at it as, okay, maybe this is what we need to accomplish.
Depending
it's
on
not
the
playable.
reactions.
It's just a video.
Right. I that's why I looked at it as like a play test. Like, throw it out there to the world, see how the world reacts, and based on those reactions, would we continue going forward with it? And I'm hoping deep in my heart that that's what happens. But at the same time, Square Enix has shut down so many projects, They don't let anything get that far. And the fact that they allowed it to go this far, and that a lot of these people also, this was hobby time, but a lot of these people are also working with Square Enix on other things. Like, maybe it's not happening. I don't know. Maybe 9 was the diversion to keep 10 a secret for so long.
Yeah, it may be. Maybe there's like a really bad game of telephone going on, and somehow like there was cross signals of like, oh, a 9 remake's being made. No, it's actually the 10 remake. But what really throws me off, like I was saying earlier, is like these are people I trust. Like I've seen these people in insider information before, doing leaks. It is unusual for these people to be incorrect, and it's certainly unusual for them to flat out lie. They never just flat out lie. Their reputation is at stake. And
unless
for them
they were fed lies.
No, but that's what I'm saying. They are saying they've literally seen it. They've seen it. Like they have watched gameplay of it.
They don't think they saw the Memorial Project?
No, they would have come out and said already, like, oh, that was Memorial Project, my bad. It's these people have supposedly seen it. That's where my mind's like, how does that happen? How could they be that wrong?
What
Give
if?
me one moment, guys.
Okay. I'll say anyway. What if they are waiting? They wanted to let 16 drop. They want to let Rebirth drop, and then bam, they hit us with 9. Not as a game out, as a here you go, we're putting this out now.
Mhm.
Like, this is us announcing we're doing it. Because if they announced it now, that might detract from 16 sales. It might detract from Rebirth sales. It probably wouldn't, but it might. So what if they wait to show that, it could be there in, say, 2 years, 3 years,
Well,
4
that's what
years,
I've
whatever.
heard. According to the insiders, it is still over a year away, is what they've said. And the reason I think it's been silenced is twofold. When it comes to the insiders, they've got nothing else to deliver. They already delivered the information that they had, and that was it. And when it comes to Square Enix, I don't think that they want to announce anything on the heels of Memoria Project. And if they are going to announce anything this year, I do think it makes sense. It would be at a 35th anniversary event for Final Fantasy as a whole, right? We're still waiting on some potential rumored Final Fantasy 35th anniversary event to celebrate the history. If you're going to announce a remake of a game that celebrates literally the legacy of Final Fantasy, then it's got to be before December or something, right? B, as you're saying, 35 is almost over. They've got to announce it before December. They announced that the 35th anniversary year-long celebration started December 2022. That's when they announced that it started. So they have until December of this year to have an event and announce this game within the 35th anniversary year. We still
What,
have
for 10 or
about
9?
For
9.
9.
So they still have 4 or 5 months to do that if they are going all the way up until December. 10 remake, I really highly doubt would be announced this year, because that is supposedly targeting 2026. They're not going to announce something 3 years ahead of time, I don't think. Not the Square Enix of today. They've kind of shifted gears in that regard. They're kind of trying to keep things a little bit closer to release.
Like B said in chat that the Pixel remasters on consoles was their 35th anniversary thing.
It was one of their they've had a lot of 35th anniversary things this year. That definitely wasn't the only thing. So
16 as well,
yeah, there's been a few things this year. So it doesn't necessarily mean that that was their one thing. It could be that the Pixel remasters were their one thing this year with a couple other things thrown in there, or there's still something to come. That's the question. Is there still something to come? We're not going to know for a little while, but what we can talk about is Memoria Project, which was released this past month in June, and I think people were pretty shocked by it. Up on screen right now, actually.
It made me really emotional.
Me too.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, let me put
They kept so much so true to Final Fantasy IX. They didn't, even with like certain NPCs, like the hippo people and the bird people and
hippo people.
The hippo, I don't know what to call them because I don't know. I don't think in 9 they really have a name for the different races of the towns. But like they have the hippo people and the bird people. And
yeah, they have
the
names. I
scene
just
when
don't
he
remember
hugs
them.
the Moogle.
Yeah. It's just, this was so much. It wasn't even just a love letter to Final Fantasy IX. This was just like a love letter to Final Fantasy, right? There was a lot thrown in there, whether it be the Mega Sisters or the Buster Sword or One Winged Angel Moogle, or there was just a lot of really cool allusions to the entire franchise here.
I really loved though with the chocobos. The chocobos in 9 have a very distinct design. They have a more rectangular face and beak. And they really brought to life, if you look at an original sketch of the chocobo from 9, they really brought it to a 3D model what the chocobo in 9 was supposed to look like. And I was really happy with that. They didn't give it the rounded beak or the rounded head like a lot of other Final Fantasies. Like the chocobos in 15, 16, 14, and even 10 have a much more rounded head and beak, whereas 9 has that specific rectangular look, and they did it justice.
9 Moogles have always been my favorite by far. I love 9 Moogles, and I feel like it's the Final Fantasy that focuses most heavily on Moogles as like a race and a people, or whatever you want to call it, right? Like they live in that world in such a big way, and I love the focus on Moogles in that game.
You've got 2 side quest chains to do with them, 2 full ones.
Yep.
So, I mean, I say full, one's minor, but you have that, and what other Final Fantasy has that? So yeah, Moogles in 9 are just they are what define Moogles to me.
Easily, what did you think of Memoria Project? Like, what was your
Um,
like overarching feeling when it all ended?
It was beautiful, and it was definitely well thought. Um, to me, I mean, and this is just me being nitpicky. You could tell it was done on an Unreal Engine rather
Yeah.
than how it would have been from Final Fantasy. Do I, if Square were to do it, would I want them to do it in the art style that's there? No. Would I want them to do it similar? Yes. Um, I wouldn't want them to do a realistic one. For one, how scary would it be to see Queen Bran in realism?
Oh my god.
I think that would give me nightmares. I'm not going to lie to you.
It'd be
Um,
terrifying.
yeah. So, I mean, I think it would need to be a slightly cartoony look. I think they captured what the game could be at a minimum. I think if it is anything worse than that, it will tank so heavily on sales, it would be unimaginable.
I think you're right, Venice. I think they are called hip balls. Yeah, I was going to talk about it earlier when B brought it up that she wanted it to look like Memoria Project. I'm with you easily. I actually don't want it to look like this, personally. Not too far off, but I agree. It had a very Unreal Engine-y look about it. It definitely looked crafted in Unreal Engine, which gives it a sort of, and I don't mean this disparaging like as a general statement, but it gives it a sort of Western feel, a sort of Western whimsy that didn't quite match up with my memory of Nine's whimsy. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like it felt, and I think a lot of people have brought this up, it felt like Fable to me. And that had a lot to do with the music too. I love Alex McCullough. I'm sorry if I'm saying his name wrong. I think he does amazing work, but his music in this felt very much like something that I would hear in Fable or Trine. I don't know if you guys ever played Trine before. Remind me a lot of Trine or Fable.
Yes, Trine.
And that was another thing that really made it feel not like Nine to me. There's just something a little bit off. It's close. It's super close. So much so that they can make it look like this with some tweaks and some differences, maybe some more stylized nature to it. I don't know, if maybe less clay looking. There's just something a little bit off about it that would make me want it a little bit different if they were to do a true Nine remake.
I disagree with both of you, but that's just me. I think it's absolutely perfect. That's exactly how I would want a 9 remake to look like.
It's close. It's very close.
That's what I want. That's exactly what I want. And it's what I envisioned in my head for the last 20 years, and it brought it to life.
I think my only issue with it is it's too childlike for me, the visuals.
Huh.
I'm okay
Yeah,
with
I can't
that.
agree with that because I feel like that is what so many of us heard back when Nine first released. Like, it's too childlike, it's too this or that, and it's supposed to look that way. It's a perfect contrast to what happens in the story. And
To
I
a degree.
yeah.
I was given a lot of shit growing up for 9 being my favorite because especially coming off of 7 and 8, which were much more realistic, especially 8, because 8 was given full figured bodies, real human figured bodies, and then they went back to 9 where you have the hippo people and you have the bird people and you have the summoner tribe, and I mean the monstrosity that is Queen Braun. I don't know what she is exactly, but 9 was always my favorite. And a lot of people were just like, "Ew, it's too cartoony. It's like a little kids game." But 9 has the darkest themes, and I love that about 9. That it's given some levity, which we've talked about here before. It's given some levity with those cartoony, childlike feelings. I don't think there's a big difference between childish and childlike, and there's nothing childish about Final Fantasy IX, but there are childlike elements that soft and
it has a lot of humor to it.
Get off me, you scumbag. There is a lot of humor to it.
Especially in the first 2 discs. I think by the end of disc 3, it definitely gets pretty dark. But I always loved that about 9, and I'm with you there 100%. Like, it was always a bummer to me back in the day how many people flat out refused to play 9. They didn't even give it a chance. Like, they literally just like, "No, I'm not playing that one. That looks like it's for a kid." And I found
it interesting that when I started on Twitch, finding so many people who would love 9, and I was like, well,
times
where
have
have you
changed.
guys been my whole life? Yeah, I feel like 9 gets a lot of love that it didn't get back in 2000 when I was loving on it so much.
People, going back to what B said about like the 7 crowd, I think it was 7 and 8 though in combination, that kind of brought about this sort of like edginess to Final Fantasy that people wanted, and then it's like, wait, what is this? After 7 and 8, they're going to like cartoony, disproportionate models, and like a lot of people were turned off by that. And I remember it was like right on the heels of Wind Waker as well, which is my favorite Zelda. So it's like 9, which at the time I liked pretty much just as much as 7. I absolutely love 9, and then Wind Waker. Both of those were so hated for being childish, and I was like, these games are amazing. You guys are missing out. It's like, you're missing out. This is so damn good. So I, even though I think it looks a little bit clay-ish and a little bit Unreal Engine ish, whatever you want to call it, I do think that they nailed, personally, I feel like they nailed the childlike look of it. I think they got that right, actually. I'm totally okay with that.
Let me ask you this then. What about when you're playing the game and you get to what would be the current end of Disc 1, Burmecia or Burmecia, depending on your pronunciation,
Uh-huh.
that graphical style for that level of dark, I don't think would suit, personally.
For what the Memoria project presented.
Yeah.
I
Would
think to
you
a certain
be
extent, you're
okay with
looking
that
at it though from the
playful?
perspective of the characters that we're seeing in this demo. You got Vivi, you've got Hitballs, you've got what was the other thing? Puck. You got Puck. You got these like, yeah, like those characters. You're getting a lot of these sort of strange characters, right? But in Burmecia, you're gonna have Kuja, you're gonna get Beatrix, you're gonna have Zidane,
Braum as
Freya.
well.
Yeah,
I don't even mean the characters.
I think that, but I think that's maybe what is throwing you off, is trying to imagine these characters in that
You
environment.
mean,
But
but no, you
No,
mean
I
the
mean,
darkness of like an entire city being wiped out, one of the Burmesians
I,
showing up to
I
Lindblum being
don't think,
blind.
I don't think I'd take it as seriously given that graphical style. I think I'd be
Hmm.
sat there like, well, it's still all fine. We're still all happy days.
you took it
When
seriously in
actually
the
it's
original,
not.
though.
It, it's not as soft in the original as that demo, as
Ooh,
Memoria
soft.
Project to me. Exactly that. I feel like the Memoria was just too soft for how dark the game will get.
We also didn't get any dark themes in the Memoria project. Though, like, think
Yeah,
about it, when
yeah,
like, when you are in
absolutely.
Lindblum and the Burmesian soldier comes in and he's been blinded by maybe chemical or magical warfare, I don't know.
Yeah.
The music changes. You know what I'm
Hmm.
talking about? The tonal
Yeah.
shift completely changes because there's this foreboding music that plays over top
Yeah.
of it. And I feel like musically that can make a huge difference regardless of what animation is in front of you visually.
Hmm.
I think another thing that we're kind of missing here is this, they are obviously under restrictions with this. We're still talking about a very small team working hobby hours for 3 years making this, and they did an absolutely amazing job. But if you look at like the NPCs and stuff like that, the animation is not up to the standard of what we would expect from a mainline Final Fantasy remake, right? We got to remember that this is still pretty limited. Maybe it doesn't look as technically impressive as this, but I think where a Final Fantasy IX remake would easily beat this are things like the animations. So I think that goes a long way to sell emotion and things like that in today's landscape of gaming, right? In Nine's landscape, back when it first released, that was amazing to us, right? That was so beautiful. These pre-rendered backgrounds, those models at the time were absolutely gorgeous. We just have very different expectations today on what can deliver that kind of emotion to us from a cinematic standpoint. And I think looking at 16, looking at 7 remake, those games cinematically, from the cinematography standpoint, animation standpoint, they're amazing. They're absolutely stellar. And I think that if you take these models, tweak them a little bit, I agree, take away a little bit of the softness, like Garnet at the beginning, a little too soft. Like, take away a little bit of that softness and put them under great animation, great voice acting. I think they're going to be able to sell those dark moments like Burmecia and others. I think it's just, we got to put it in the right hands. And I'm not saying these weren't the right hands. I think if you take all these people that worked in this game and gave a bigger team, more resources, and gave them 3 years, oh man, I bet they probably could have done something wild. They kind of already did.
I want to say as well, please do not think that if this were how it came out, I would dislike. I wouldn't. It's just not my initial reaction of this is what I want. It's not far off, but it's not quite there to me. But that being said, I would be okay with it at the same time.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'll take anything I can get, and I honestly, if it looked like this, that's better than what I expected. Like if I'm expecting a remake of 9, I'm expecting it to be sort of like a Crisis Core reunion, as I said earlier. It's not going to be a full-on remake. It's going to
If they
be new models and things like that. And
if they do it though, I think, and like I said about with a 10 remake, I would want them to bring back the ATB gauge, the classic ATB gauge, if they remake 9.
that was by far the preference in the poll. Yeah, everybody wants classic ATB.
Mm-hmm.
I think
want
there's a way
classic.
to spice it up a little bit. I think we all can agree 9's original release, the ATB is a little bit slow.
We
Getting into
don't.
battle is a little slow as well.
When you say spice it up, though, I am on the side that you don't need action combat to spice it up. I will say in 9, the issue that I had with combat, like in compared to 8, where you conjunction magic to your speed stat and you can make your ATB gauge fly.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that you have in 9 to speed up your ATB gauge is auto haste, which you learn from running shoes. And it's not, you can't, well, unless you're using, the 3 times speed.
No, that's another way.
What, maxing stats?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but
Stat
outside
maxed
of
it.
that, outside of
You
that,
can max your
outside of
stats.
doing a level 1 playthrough where you max out all your stats, it's really hard to level up someone's speed.
Yeah, it is difficult, yes.
It's very
I think
hard.
something as simple as giving you control of your characters on the field, but not taking away ATB. Still have it be straight up ATB, but allowing you to move your characters and switch between, and like it actually moves between characters on the field and actually allowing you to move around the opponent. Just having that level of control might go a long way to appease people that feel like, oh, they're just standing in a line. You know what I mean? Like, that's boring to some people. Just the fact that they're standing in a line and don't move, that you're just selecting from a menu and that's it, turns some people off. But if you were to put analog control on each character, allow them to move within distance, maybe even allow that to affect your ability to dodge or things like that, allow you to move around the field, and then just wait for ATB bars to fill still and choose your attacks from a menu using the directional pad instead of the analog sticks to control the movement of the characters. I think you could do a hybrid there that's somewhere of a compromise that still holds on to the true nature of the original. Just spitballing, but
Chris asked in chat, you can't set the ATB speed and options in 9. Yes, you can, but even cranked all the way up, in comparison to 7 and 8, it is much slower. And Grim, I think I'm used to it as well. I've played 9 so many times that the speed of battle doesn't really bother me that much. But for people that have played 7, 8, or even 10 that doesn't have an ATB gauge that you can, just crank up someone's agility and they have a bunch of turns, 9 plays a lot slower than the others as far as combat goes.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. I don't know what the decision was there. Like, why'd you go from 7 and 8 and then make the decision to make 9's ATB slower? Like it's almost like it was a premeditated decision.
Maybe it
but
was
I
a
don't know
little
why.
bit. Maybe it was a little bit of 9 being the love letter to the series. Like, let's slow things down a bit and not worry so much about it. I think 7 and 8 really took off with the combat, with the junctioning, with the materia. 9 went back to gear and accessories and not boosting your stats like crazy and breaking the game like you could do in 8.
Yeah. Going to Xerxes in the chat. Yeah, even if it was simply having the characters move around on their own, that's what 13 does. You don't control the characters, but they do move around the field to give a little bit more of like a dynamic nature to it. Even that might go a little bit towards appeasing a certain fan base that doesn't want, hey, they're in lines, ATB bars filling up, that's boring. But I still think there is even a way to go beyond that and still hold on to entirely onto ATB, because I agree. I think ATB is the way to go. I think bars filling up and choosing attacks, I think, is the way to go. I just think there's some type of ways to make sure that this does well. I just don't want it to come out and not do well because there's a fan base that's like, nah, I'm not going back to that style of Final Fantasy. I don't want that to happen. And I think they are going, if they are doing this, I think it probably is a synergistic approach with the 9 TV series, the animated series. I think that there could be a renaissance of 9 here going on. I want to see it do well. I want 9 to be the Final Fantasy that we know it to be. You know, the Final Fantasy that since its release has grown so much in popularity from being the one that only sold 4 million after 7 and 8 sold 10. You know what I mean? That was Final Fantasy IX for the longest time. It was the one that sold less than half of what 7 and 8 did. I'm happy with what it has become today. Like, there's so much love for this franchise, and I want for this entry in the franchise, and I want to see that continue. But going to story, and this might be a little bit of spoiler territory for anybody in chat. I understand if you don't want to hear anything about story in 9, but what would you change, if anything, about 9? Easily.
The last boss of the game.
Just as simple as that.
Honestly, that's the biggest thing. But and like you'll see, like Cease there straight away. Like Keeper has a very funny name for that split on his speedrun, and it is called Highly Relevant Final Boss.
Yep. Because
Right.
he's so relevant.
And
I think he fits in with the themes of the game.
Change. Theme, yes.
But he's
But
not set up in any way. Yeah.
it's a smack out of nowhere is my problem.
I agree. I think there's a way to. I don't think he goes away. I'm with Ceaselessly. I'm a Necron apologist. I like the concept of Necron, but
Give me
there's got to be
backstory.
stuff in like DeGuario or something in the library. There's got to be stuff throughout the game that's like, hey, this is an allusion to something you might encounter later on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, give us like statues or some shit. Like, make this an entity within the world that is prophesized, or there's some mythology behind it, or lore, or something.
The only thing that I can relate to Necron are the faces in Ove.
Sorry, say that again?
The faces on the wall in Ove.
Oh,
The only thing. It's the only thing that I can see until Pandemonium that even has remote semblance to Necron.
yeah, I never even picked that up. Yeah.
I have absolutely nothing to change about Necron. I have a lot to change about Amaranth.
I'm with you there as well. Go ahead.
If you look on the back, I have it around here somewhere, and then we're running a little behind, so I won't try and find it. But if you look on the back of the original 9 game case, there is a screen cap of Amaranth dodging what looks like an explosion behind him, maybe in Alexandria or something,
Yeah.
and like a full motion video screen cap. Amaranth is not in any full motion videos throughout the entire game. They were all cut.
Poor guy.
All of his
Yeah.
story, which, and this might be a bit spoilery, just so you guys know, all of his story, his actual backstory, is reduced to active time events because he knows Zidane, and you're hinted that he knows Zidane, but you don't know why unless you really pay attention to these active time events where Zidane robbed a noble or burgled a noble in Trino, and Amaranth got accused of it. And that's why his posters are all over, all the wanted posters are all over Trino, is because of Zidane. That's why he's pissed at Zidane. Like, you don't know any of this.
Nope.
I hated the character. Honestly, I couldn't stand the character because he was pointless to me. It's like, why is this guy even here? Like, where'd you come from? Leave. I don't need you. Like,
I think Amaranth, and I don't understand why people, and no offense, Drew, but I don't understand why people think that, but then they relate so well to Squall, who thinks, I can do everything on my own. I don't need anybody.
Oh, it has nothing to do with that. It's just the character is a main party member that
Mhm.
doesn't have any development. That was what it was. It's like, why are you here? Why are you part of the main party when you have no development whatsoever? It was very frustrating to me.
It's his very first opportunity having friends that don't pay him for bounties.
Here's another character. What lore do you get of Quina unless you watch ATs and do
Same thing,
side
yeah.
quests?
In all honesty,
And-
Quina was another one for me. I love every
Yeah.
character except Quina and Amaranth. I was like, oh, this is like the best cast ever in Final Fantasy if you remove Quina and Amaranth. I like Quina to a certain extent because there is a theme, there is like a lesson to be learned about Quina and how she travels. They travel the world, right? And they learn about the world, and they see what else is out there and expand their horizons. I think there's something there with Quina. It's pretty minimalistic, and I think they could certainly expand upon it. there's more there than there is with Amaranth. That's for damn sure.
I like what Ceaselessly said, which is that Quina doesn't need a backstory. I agree. Quina is meant to be your metaphorical character, your life lesson character.
I just would have liked a little bit more.
I agree.
That was
they
all.
they deserve like a moment, right, in the story that's theirs.
Because aside from like
Frogs.
you know, well, I
You
mean,
know, like even Freya is a little bit underutilized to a certain extent, right? Can we all agree Freya, like after disc 1, is like, okay, Freya, what's going on, Freya? Like,
I think Freya's story happened too early in the game.
right, but she has her moment at least. She does have her
Right, she
moment.
does.
It's Bermesia, and to a certain extent, it's what's his name? Lord, what the heck's his name?
Fratley.
Sir Fratley. So she has something. There's a core to her story. There's something there. And every Final Fantasy, when it comes to the main cast, typically has that. Like every character has their moment that is their moment. Whether it be
Echo has
Selphie
hers,
in 8
Freya
having
has hers.
yeah, Trabia Garden or something in 8, Selphie has her moment. Like, you know what I mean? And Amaranth doesn't have his moment. Quina doesn't have their moment.
He has a moment. He has a
Mhm.
moment when
Mhm.
and it's when Lonnie is like, I don't care, I'll kill the kid when she's talking about Aiko, and he's like, nah, I draw my line at kids.
He still comes off like an NPC to me.
He has another one, which is as you're about to fight a certain guardian, there's that little realization moment he has in Ibsen's Castle and in.
Well,
just before
ironically,
Guardian.
in Ibsen's Castle, Amaranth literally is an NPC. So it goes to my point. Like, yeah.
It's kind of funny.
But he has a realization that he can't go on in his
He
entire
might as well
life
be an
thinking he can
NPC.
do everything alone.
He adds like a layer to the combat system. Of course, he has mechanics that no other character has, and that's great. And that's why he should be in the game, and he should be in the remake, and he should be in the main party. But from a story perspective, he's basically an NPC that pops up here and there.
Can I just ask how many of the 9 speedrunners who played the game day in day out realized that? I didn't even think of him as an NPC there.
Well, he is. He's a non-playable character.
Did I just blow your minds?
Think of it because you play him for like 2 seconds as you're leaving the castle.
Yeah.
Until you go back in and come back out with him.
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
realize, oh, did I change my equipment on him? Nope, he's useless if I run into a battle.
But you have to change his equipment. That's one of the menus we do.
Yeah.
Yep. Is spoiler stuff over? I think we're done with spoilery stuff.
Yeah.
Let's give a thumbs up. Thumbs up to Rose. We're done with spoilers, Rose. No more talking of the ending or anything crazy like that. Wait, what's B saying? Aquistus and Freya suffered same issue when they got lost in the plot of the games. Oh wait, he's talking about she's talking about Vaughn now.
It's to do with Vaughn.
Yeah,
and I agree with B on this.
I can echo what you're gonna say, B. I can echo what you're gonna say. I can agree to a certain extent that Vaughn was never intended to be like main character with a story worthy of a main character. It was, I am the foil, that I am the perspective that allows you to see these other characters throughout the game, and in part grows through this voyage, you know, to Sky Pirate through this perspective. Like there's a point. I get what they were going through with Vaughn. The problem is that people treat him as the main character, right? Because he's the one that you control at the beginning. He's the one that's on the first revealed artwork. He's the one on the box art. Like he's the front of Final Fantasy 12, but he was really never meant to be that. And I agree with you, Dondoran.
Too much. I haven't played 12 yet, remember?
Yeah, I agree with Dondoran. I can understand what they were going for and still not like it, right? So that's kind of where I'm at. Like I get what they're going for, but I don't really like it. It doesn't really work for me.
I firmly believe that one of the reasons why you can say that 12 doesn't have a true main character is the fact that no character is set in your party all game.
Yeah.
You can change it all game.
Good to know.
So you can pick whoever you want.
I'm
This
gonna
isn't
run
about
with
12,
all. I'm gonna run with all girls.
Do it. All right. Anything else about 9? Actually, let's go the opposite direction. One last thing. What is the one thing you're like, they cannot change this? They cannot. I'll shut the game down. I'll break the disc if they change this.
Yana. You're not alone.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah.
remove that, and I won't play it.
That's actually a
Yeah.
pretty good answer. I can't disagree with that. That's an amazing moment.
That was one of like three things that pops in my mind. Mine is a spoiler. I'm just gonna say the ending cinematic.
Okay.
They cannot
Yeah.
change that ending cinematic.
Yep.
I will break down and cry if they change that.
This is. I'm gonna go away from what you guys are talking about and just kind of go something simple. It needs to have an airship. It needs to have a world that you can explore in that way. Like,
Yeah, true. Yes.
it needs to have that.
Well, the airship is a big integral part of 9.
But
100%.
there's plenty of people that don't think you're gonna have an airship in 7 Rebirth.
But here's a big difference. In 9, you don't get one airship. You don't get 2 airships.
Right.
Right.
You get a lot.
You get 3.
And you get a boat too. You get Blue Narcissus. Like there's a
Technically,
lot
there's
of
4 airships you use.
But the
so,
last airship you get is integral to the entire story. You have
Yeah.
to get that.
yeah.
It needs to have. In all honesty, like if they're doing a remake, I want them to do straight up overworld. And I think this is the Final Fantasy that relates itself so well to that because of its cartoony, kid-like nature. They can still go sort of minimalistic with an overworld and still have it fit perfectly in the graphical style of Final Fantasy IX, right? You can't do that with 7 Rebirth. They went to not realistic. It's 7 Remake and Rebirth, I wouldn't call it realistic, but you get what I'm saying. They couldn't get away with doing like big model on a world where all the buildings are really tiny in 7 Rebirth. They couldn't have gotten away with that. But in 9 Remake, with a still sort of cartoony, childlike style, I think you could get away with that. And I think they need to go that direction so that you can still have the Blue Narcissus and all the airships and all that.
A lot of mini games were brought up in chat. How would they upgrade Chocobo Hot and Cold? How would they change Tetramaster? I like the RNG factor of Tetramaster personally. I don't think they should change it. I mean, granted, I have lost an epic Nova Dragon card to like a 0p00 card before and not understood how in the hell that happened.
Shoot.
But I really like Tetramaster. And I feel like as far as Chocobo Hot and Cold goes, though, I wouldn't change it at all. There's a reason why I have a whole Chocobo tattooed on my shoulder, and it's because of Hot and Cold, because I spent so many hours. Maybe adding more chocographs. I don't think there were enough chocographs. I think there were, 26? 24, 26 chocographs? Yeah. And I just think I could have done, there's a lot of early chocographs, like in the lagoon area and the field area. I would have liked more expansion into the sea and sky chocographs.
I think there weren't enough when you had your last chocobos. Absolutely not.
That's what I'm saying. There should have been at least there's 7 or 8 field and lagoon ones, and they could have definitely added more for sea and sky.
And I agree with Cease on the super bosses there as well. I would have
Me
liked more.
too. I agree as well. I won't name them, but there really are only 2, maybe 3, I guess, super bosses. I don't really count the third one as a super boss, but there could definitely be more or harder ones.
All right, let's end this with one final question here. If you had to choose between a 9 remake and a 10 remake, which do you want?
9. I don't personally feel 10 needs one as much. I don't want a 9-1 necessarily, but I would be less opposed to a 9-1 than a 10-1.
Oop. What you think? Your 2 favorite games of all time.
You're asking me to choose between my children.
I am. That's exactly what I'm asking you to do. Your 2 favorite games of all time. One of them, only one, forever, can be remade. It's got to be 9 or 10.
This completely counteracts everything I said earlier, but I would say 10. If I only had to choose one to be remade, I would
Really?
Mhm.
That surprises me. Interesting.
Because I've played, as much as I've played both of them, I think I've probably put maybe 1,000 more hours into 10 than I have 9. And I'd want to play it again, but differently. I'd want to put another 3,000 hours into Final Fantasy X.
If I had to choose, it would be 9. I would choose 9. But I want them both to be real. I'm going to be honest with you.
I don't want to choose. Don't make me choose. I want both of them. That's my answer. My answer is both. I don't know.
Not allowed. You already said. You said 10. It's over. Can't take it back. It's done.
I
All right,
quit.
guys.
I don't want to be a crystal bear anymore.
We do have to take a probably a little bit of a lengthy commercial break here, you guys, because we have a whole bunch of guests that we need to bring onto the show for a very special Final Fantasy Jeopardy this month. So we're gonna back out. You guys can listen to some lo-fi Final Fantasy music and just relax, chat with each other, talk about 9 remake, talk about 10 remake, and go ahead, Easley.
Someone's just played Not Alone in my stream.
Whenever you're feeling lonely,
Oh, that thing. Yeah, I know what you're talking
Yeah.
about. I know what you're talking about.
just know you're not alone.
Maybe both 9 and 10 rumors are the red herring to distract us from the real one, which is 8. I think a lot of people would go nuts if that was true. That'd be nuts in a good way and a bad way. We'll see.
Easily,
Guys,
I had an offline follow last segment in the first episode, and I thought everyone else could hear it too, but I guess not. But I was screamed in my ear, "Rides the shoe buff!" And I don't know.
shoe buff waiting.
Yeah, I was so confused.
All right, guys,
Yeah.
5 minutes, probably 5 minutes or so. Hold on tight. Please don't go anywhere because we'll be back with our final segments of the show. We'll see you soon. Welcome back, everybody, to Crystal Bears, episode 2. This is our monthly Final Fantasy talk show, of course, here on twitch.tv/Drukle on the first Thursday of every month. If you're enjoying the show tonight, make sure to hit that follow button. Also, of course, I didn't shout this earlier in the stream, although it's been in chat. Of course, make sure to follow the hosts, Easily18 and Rides the Shoe Puff as well. Amazing Final Fantasy streamers, speedrunners, extraordinaire, all that good stuff. But right now, I'm really excited. We're going to bring on some other amazing Final Fantasy streamers because it is time for a little bit of Final Fantasy Jeopardy, you guys. Let's go! Welcome, everybody. We've got a lot of amazing guests tonight. We have Easily18 is going to be one of our contestants. We also have Keeper BK, Grim Salad, and Ceaselessly joining us.
Oh.
Shoop, you are the game master this month. Take it away.
I am the game master.
Mistress.
The game mistress. I like this. All right, so first things first. We needed to decide who's going to go first. So, who currently has the best PB?
Also, who's who real quick, because I do love the avatars. Easily, you're first. Who are you?
I am Hippo.
Hipal.
Yeah.
Keeper.
It looks like I am the Tomberry.
Okay.
I'm
Grim.
the Cactuar.
Cactuar, and Ceaselessly, that would make you the Moogle.
Yes, I am the Moogle.
All
I'm
right.
proud of it.
All right, so who has the best PB right now? We got to see who's going to go first.
Keep it.
Keeper.
If we're talking PC, it's me. I will note Cease does have the best console. TV
I'm pretty
Yes.
sure I'm the only
Yes.
one of us who has run console.
Well, true. I guess it also means you have the worst console run. of all.
Console
Yeah,
love,
best
by the way. I play console.
Yeah. If we're talking PC, it's me.
Well, why don't we go ahead with you, Keeper? Why don't you? Go
Oh,
ahead and
boy.
say-
Well, why don't you explain? Let's talk about the categories real quick.
Oh yeah, sorry. Gosh, This is the first time I've hosted in a while.
It's okay.
So
It's okay.
we have melodies of blank. So you have to name the song. And I quote, you have to name the character who says the line that is presented to you.
Oh no.
For all of you speedrunners who skip
Oh,
dialogue.
Oh no.
Then you have it's all in the cards. This is all going to be focused on Tetramaster. You also have Finders Keepers, which is basically going to be based on side quests or abilities. Blurred backgrounds. We're going to give you a background to a location in a game, and it's going to be incredibly blurry, and you have to tell us the location of the game. And then potpourri is basically just a grab bag of fun facts and just a little bit of everything.
Cool. And so the way this works is anyone can buzz for any question. Is that correct? Or...
Yes, you have to
Okay.
buzz in. I can see on my screen who buzzes in first. So make sure when we always play this, somebody, at least one person, will always blurt out the answer before
Right.
I call you. So make sure I call your character, and I'm going to just say Hippo or Tonberry or Cactar or Moogle.
I am a cactuar.
channeling your inner Cactar.
All right. Keeper, you're in control.
All right, let's do and I quote for 300.
And I quote, I didn't train all these years just so I could take a back seat to anyone.
Silence deafening.
Ooh.
I'm really surprised. I know this one.
Do we lose points if we get it wrong?
Yes.
Yes, you do.
I can't guess then.
Anybody?
Who
The
is...
time has. Oh, wait, we got somebody.
Oh, sorry.
Moogle.
Who is Steiner?
No.
No.
Okay, the time is up.
All right. The answer is FFIX.
I just
What?
realized
She
it.
trains?
When C said Steiner, I was like, oh no, of course it's Beatrix after the invasion.
Yeah, I should have answered.
All right, Keeper. It's on you.
All right, we are demonstrating our 9 prowess well so far. Let's go and I quote for 100.
Training wheels.
We may be enemies next time we meet. Tonberry.
I believe that's Amaranth.
It is.
Nice.
It is Amaranth. Well done.
I turned off the sounds this time, so you guys don't have to deal with the ding.
When we played last time, the sounds, the buzzes and the dings were so absurdly loud.
Sorry, my tiles went away. Hold on one second. Bring them back. There we go.
Bring them back.
Bring them back. There we go.
All right, Keeper, back to you.
Okay, let's do It's All in the Cards for 200.
For 200. This card and reference to a Final Fantasy IV character can be taken to Deguero and used to rename your characters. I can't see who buzzed in first. It's too small.
Moogle. It's got a little
It's
dot
Moogle.
above the Moogle's head.
Moogle.
What is the naming way card?
Yes.
Nice work.
Nice.
By the way, I'm doing Jeopardy rules where I say what is, who is.
Yep.
I do that too.
Very proud of
I
you.
do that
Very
too.
proud of you.
I forgot, I apologize.
All right, Cease, you're in control.
Let's do blurred backgrounds for 100.
Third backgrounds for 100.
Moogle's first.
That is the guest room in Lindblom Castle.
Yes. That was
Nice
the first.
work.
That was the first one Drew sent to me, and I said, "Well, you need to make that more blurry because that's
That's what I thought.
painfully obvious."
We'll see if they continue to be that easy.
Cease, you're still in control.
Blurred backgrounds for 200, please.
200.
Before we move on real quick, why does this say 0? Oh, I know why. Sorry, you had the incorrect answer at the beginning, right?
Yes.
Cease? Okay, I was
I'm
wondering why you were
clawing
at
from
zeros.
the bottom back up.
Yeah, you're doing good though. Sorry, what was the selection?
Blurred backgrounds for 200, please.
Okay.
Ooh, was that Moogle or Hippo? I can't tell because it
There's a
says
little dot.
Moogle.
Do you not see the dot
It's Moogle.
above the Moogle's head?
Oh yes, Moogle. Go ahead.
Where is the Dolly Inn?
Yes, correct.
Nice work.
Well done.
I
You're
would've
still in
gotten that
control.
wrong.
You know your locations. Go on.
This is where the speedrunners thrive. Blurred backgrounds for 300, please.
All right. Hippo.
That is Clara outside of the inn.
It is. Yep.
Nice one.
Nice work.
All right. Easily, Hippo. You are in control.
Finders keepers 400.
400. This piece of armor that can be stolen from Melty Gemini has only a 0.39% chance of being successfully taken. This one's hard. Hippo.
We don't do that in the speed run.
We don't-
I
we don't
think I'm
steal.
wrong, but the demon's mail.
No, incorrect.
There is a little bit of time left if anybody wants it. Okay.
Nope. It is the demon mail.
Oh, you're close.
The demon.
Close.
I was gonna
Controversy.
guess
Mail.
the same thing, and then I was like, "Oh shit, it's wrong."
The
I knew there was
demon's
a
mail
demon.
has the same steal rate, but it's from Tantarian.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
A good
But
try.
easily, you're still in control.
It's all in the cards. 300.
300. These two cards are the only that represent a city or location in the game. Hippo.
Alexandria and Lindblom cards.
Correct. Easily, you're in
Nice.
control still.
It's all in the cards. 500.
Ooh. The only Eidolons in Final Fantasy IX that do not have a card to represent them are Carbuncle, Carbumble,
Carbuncle.
and,
I
and,
checked.
and this fire Eidolon. Hippo,
Phoenix.
Phoenix, correct. Carbunble.
Carbuncle. I didn't pick that one up. My bad.
Drew, I'm never letting you type anything ever again.
Hey, you reviewed
Easily.
this.
I did. Drew, easily you're in control.
Cards 400.
Cards 400. The defense card master in Memoria will only play these cards. Hippo,
The ribbon card.
the ribbon, correct.
Ooh, Easy's taking a
I
little bit of a
definitely knew
lead.
there was a ribbon card.
I was just talking about the ribbon card guy with Rome the other day.
Easily, keep it going.
Cards for 100.
Cards 100. All you should know this one. This is your prize for winning the card tournament in Trino.
Oh.
Hippo.
The theater ship card.
What? No.
Oh, I mean Trino. Oh shit.
Nope.
Moogle.
I thought that said Festival of the Hunt for some reason. Oh my god, I just completely misread that.
Google.
What is the rebirth ring?
The rebirth
Yeah.
ring.
I thought I was saying the card, not the card. Jesus Christ.
Easily a speed running card just got revoked.
For
Yeah.
folks who don't watch the 9 speedrun, the entire run turns on whether or not you get the ring, and we do a whole different set of menus and strategies depending on whether we have that ring. So
Yeah.
I have seen all of you. Well, Cease, except for you. I have seen Grim, Keeper, and Easily all have amazing runs and then horrible cards.
Yeah. Oh, it happens
ruin it
to
all,
everyone. Yeah.
yep.
It's a rite of passage.
And literally lost 4 minutes there yesterday.
Moogle, my dear, you are in control.
Let's go blurred backgrounds 400, please.
400. Oh, who got there first? Let me see. It is Moogle.
The long path in Memoria. I don't know what the official name is.
Yeah,
You're
we'll
fine.
take it. It's
You're
a
fine.
Memoria. Yeah.
Thank you.
Cease, you're still in control.
Blurred backgrounds for 500, please.
Blurred backgrounds 500.
Okay. Ooh,
Oh,
Cactar.
I think that was Grim.
Yeah, it's the Alexandria Library where you
Mhm.
fight Tantarian.
Where you fight Tamp, baby!
Yep.
That was a big one. That was a big one, Grim.
That was,
Grim's
yeah.
been spending a lot of time there lately. So
Raja, not the blinds. We rent the apartment. Stop it. Sorry, my cat.
Oh,
Grim, you're
I
in
have to pick
control.
now. Melodies of Blank for 100.
All right.
All right, so let me just preface real quick by saying that the song will autoplay. If you guys want to pause it, you can, but it's going to autoplay when I click on this. Okay? All right, here we go.
Google, you came in quick.
To someday.
I'm sorry?
The Place I'll Return to Someday is the name of it.
That's right.
A Place to Call Home.
You can. It's called both.
It's
Okay.
both.
It's
yeah.
called
Okay.
both. Yeah, there is a version that's called that. It's kind of like a few songs in 9. 9 has a couple different variations when it comes.
Translations.
Yeah, it also
Gotcha.
is called that. That is acceptable.
Great.
You're in control again.
Let's do Melodies of Blank for 200.
All right. Titled by the same name, the following song plays during your travels to this maze-like location. Hippo.
I'm being stupid again. I know where it is, and I was like,
Uh-oh.
yeah,
Uh-oh.
yeah.
No, you don't have
No,
any guesses.
no. I just went location, and that was it.
That means it goes to Moogle.
Yep.
Well, titled by the same name, what is Fossil Roo, right?
Mhm.
Correct.
Yeah.
That is
Should
right.
have just said fossil room.
Yeah.
That's like definitely guesses.
It's okay, Aisley. I got lucky.
Moogle, you're in control again.
Melody is a blank for 300.
For 300. The following song references these two characters from Final Fantasy III. It can be activated in 9 only after acquiring 2 special items from Trino's auction house before going to the music box in Black Mage Village.
That means name the characters.
I've never heard the song. It's awesome.
I'd only heard it once as a kid, actually. I haven't heard it in the remaster.
So
only
yes, you
played
have to
3.
get the 2 items in order to hear the song when you go to Black Mage Village and activate the music box. But those characters are from Final Fantasy III, actually.
Oh wait.
It is
The
Doga,
mirror.
Doga
Yeah.
and Une. Yeah,
Mm.
Doga's
Yep.
artifact. And
Gotcha.
if you go with Doga's artifact and Une's mirror to the Black Mage Village Inn and go to the music box, it will play that song for you.
Oh, that's
So in Final Fantasy
Oh.
III, Doga and Une are 2 of the characters that are like these past mages that were bestowed upon with these powers, and they're kind of going against their brother, their partner that has gone bad in
Cool.
3. Yeah.
All right. Moogle, I believe. Yes, Moogle, you're in control still.
Let's do Melodies of Blank, 400.
400. This song from Final Fantasy VII is hidden within one of Final Fantasy IX's active time events as an Easter egg. Tonberry. Wait,
Nope, nope,
Moogle,
wait, nope,
Moogle,
nope,
Moogle, Moogle, sorry.
What is the Junon March?
That is not the name of the song. No.
Boy, I think the name is Rufus's Parade.
Closer.
Oh.
Not quite right. I don't know. Should we give it to him?
I think we should. Because
Is-
it's Rufus's welcoming ceremony.
Yes. We'll give
And
it.
it is
We'll give it.
during
We'll give
the
it.
That's
parade.
generous of
It's
you guys.
played in Junon, but it is yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that gives Keeper control.
All right, let's finish out Melodies of Blank.
Okay.
This song from Final Fantasy IX is an homage to Final Fantasy IV's Black Mage Village of this name. So we need you to name the village in Final Fantasy IV. Hippo.
You need to name the.
The
Uh-oh.
village in Final Fantasy IV.
Why do I press before I read the whole thing? Why? Just why?
Because you're a
I've not
speedrunner.
even played 4. So.
You're a speedrunner.
You know what? I'm gonna lose points. We're just gonna say Black Mage Village is wrong, but you know.
In homage to Final Fantasy IV's Black Mage Village of
Exactly.
this
Yeah.
name.
I didn't even read the song. I didn't even read the message. I was
The
like, that'll do.
the answer is theater ship card.
No.
Exactly. Yes. Always see the ship card.
Well, unfortunately, that loses you some points there.
Yeah, that's okay.
Anyone else?
No.
No. All right. It is Mysidia or Mystic.
It's a very common recurring, actually, village in Final
Is
Fantasy, the
that
early
in
ones.
Mystic Quest? That sounds really familiar.
It's also
I
an
think-
FF2, yeah.
Yep, there's one in
Okay.
Final Fantasy
Mhm,
2,
there's one,
in
2, and
4.
4.
There might even be one in 3. I don't think so, though. But I think there is maybe one in Mystic Quest as well. It's pretty common recurring. Tab.
I believe the keeper. You're still in control though.
I can't believe I didn't do this before because I'm Keeper. Let's do Finders Keepers for 300.
Finders keepers for 300. Sedane's thievery can only be learned from this weapon. Hippo.
It's the Angel Blast.
It is the Angel Blast, correct? Raja, stop.
Easily.
That you put you in control.
Finders Keepers 500.
500. There are 3 weapons / armor that can be stolen from Beatrix, Chainplate and Mithril Sword can be stolen on the first encounter. This weapon can be stolen on the second encounter. Speedrunners don't spend a lot of time stealing.
Only on some fights.
Mm-hmm.
Hippo?
I also, Hippo, go ahead.
I think I'm wrong on this one, but Ice Brand.
You're
That's
correct.
right.
It is Ice Brand.
Ah,
I knew one's ice and one's coral, so I was like,
that's right.
is it the right way around?
That was a big win right there.
I also want to reiterate really quick in chat, please do not type the answers.
Unless all of you agree not to look at chat at all.
Yeah, unless all of you
Well,
guys agree
yeah,
to not look at
I
chat.
I
haven't
haven't been
been.
looking, but
Chat's way over that way, and the game's that way for me.
Okay.
So
As long as you guys aren't looking at chat, then it's fine.
Okay, if they're all in agreement, okay, you guys can respond in chat.
Yeah, you guys
gonna
can
look.
respond in chat. Okay.
They're not going to look at chat.
Chat is hidden.
Good.
yes.
All right, easily that puts you in control
Finders Keepers 200.
for 200. Orichalcon is Zidane's most powerful dagger. It can be purchased in Bronze Ball or stolen from this enemy. Hippo.
Tahaka.
Taharka. I
Whenever
knew
we
if
keep-
We know this one.
yeah, of all the steals, I know y'all know this one.
Whenever the clue involves an actual speedrun strat, yeah, we're all on it.
All right, Easy, you're still in control.
We'll round off that category with 100.
Finish it off. The ship used to get to the outer continent is stolen from Alexandria by Regent Sid. This ship, sorry if I read that off wrong.
Tonberry.
Tonberry. It's
Uh,
coming up on a delay for me.
The blue Narcissus.
The blue Narcissus. Yep.
I only could remember it because it's the name of the default split in the speedrun.
I was confused because wasn't that originally the Hildegard 2 or something?
It was originally the Hildegard 2, yes.
Okay, so I don't know how technical. I'm self-doubting here.
Just buzz in and say theater ship card. You can't
Yeah.
go wrong.
Not gonna be
Eventually, you'll be right.
All right,
Let's-
Keeper, you're in control then.
Awesome. Let's do and I quote for 400.
And I quote for 400. Mark my words, I'll collect the bounty on you someday. Tonberry.
That would be Lonnie.
That is Lonnie, correct. And you still have control
All right, let's go and I quote for 200.
for 200. I brought my belongings so that I might live and work here. Moogle.
This is a long shot. Who is part-time worker Mary?
That's what I thought too. See?
Oh, that's
That
amazing.
is a
I don't
great
think that's
guess.
right.
I love that you thought that was the 100 kill answer.
It's not. It's incorrect, but that is an excellent guess.
It sounds really familiar.
Or 200 kill, sorry.
Tonberry.
I think it's Steiner.
It is Steiner.
In the same scene.
I
It's the
believe
same
he's-
scene.
Yep, in the same
That's
scene.
awesome. That is really
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh, he brings the pickle back. I'm like, why is that so familiar?
There's a reason Mary was on my brain.
I had the exact same instinct as you at first.
It's the same
let's
scene.
let's do and I quote for 500.
And finish out the category. We live not to forget our past, but to learn from it. You don't stand a chance against us. Moogle.
Who is Freya?
It is Freya, correct.
That's a big win right there.
Right before they
Nice.
fight the Silver Dragon, the best
Yep.
scene in the game.
Yep. All right, Cease, you're in control in our
Let's-
final category.
Let's do potpourri for 100.
Potpourri for 100. This Stelazio coin can be found in Alexandria. We don't side quest.
Yeah.
I know a lot of them.
I know
but
where it
not-
is, and I'm trying to think which one it is.
Mm-hmm. Any guesses?
Oh.
What is Ares?
It is not Aries, Moogle. Hippo.
Aquarius.
It is not Aquarius. There's only 10
Oh, I know what it is.
I was gonna guess.
Cactuar, Cactuar.
Oh.
Grim, go ahead.
What is Pisces?
It's not Pisces.
This is great. I gained on all of you. I'm not gonna
Tonberry,
guess.
you can buzz in if you want.
Nope, I'm all set.
No,
This
I
is
know
how
what
it
it is
goes.
as well. Yeah.
It is Leo.
Yeah.
Pisces is on the Invincible in disc 4.
Oh, damn it! I
Yeah.
knew that. Yeah.
All right, so that is, I go back to Cease. Cease, yeah,
think
you have
so.
control.
Let's do 200.
200. This enemy in Clara's trunk teaches Quina the White Wind ability when eaten. Hippo.
The zoo.
The zoo. The zoo, yes, correct. All right, Hippo, you're in control.
400.
400. Oh, skipping the 3.
Yeah, I wanna
going
go
for
in the middle.
4. All right. Regent Sid spends much of his Final Fantasy IX as an oglop and a frog. His wife Hilda threatens to turn him into this if he were to ever cheat on her again. Hippo.
Hedgehog pie.
Hedgehog pie, correct.
Nice.
Very nice work.
I've definitely never seen that line style.
It's just after she changes him back. It's
Yeah.
just when they go
Well, 'cause we always-
Why
you know
wouldn't she
this,
just
we
say
always
like
take
a
a
dead
break.
man?
That is the biggest break that I think you guys take, isn't
It's
it?
like a 10-minute break.
Yeah.
That's when Keeper's running around in the
there's
background eating a
still-
banana.
Correct.
There's still 800 gil on the board, you guys. So this can still be a very close game for all of you.
Okay.
And we do have a final factal as well.
Oh,
Hippo, you are in control.
500, please.
500. Zidane tells Garnet a short story on the dock in Medain Sarai. The story ends with Ibsen's question, "Why did you come with me?" followed by this response. Moogle.
Because I wanted to go with you.
Yes, correct. Only because I wanted to go with you. Oh, I'm going to tear up. That line makes me cry.
It's so sweet.
Very nice.
And our final question.
Here we go.
This better late than never ability can be learned from Zidane's ultimate weapon. Any guesses?
What is flee?
It is flee, correct.
Yep. Why they did
I was sat there like
why they give that on the ultimate weapon, I have no idea, but
that's
I
actually
was
very
sat there
funny.
like I know what it does when you use Soul Blade. I know what its effect is with its health. I know how much damage it does.
all right.
Are we ready for the final factal?
I'm going all in.
Yeah, so
You're
you'll be
not
able
supposed to say.
I mean, you might as well, right?
You
Yeah.
have to.
All right, so yeah.
Would you like to
I'll
at
go-
least
I'll
tell
join
me
Wait,
you.
hold on a sec. The
category?
category, just so
The
you know.
category is Eidolons/equipment.
Oh, I'm in trouble.
Are we all going all in?
I'm. You're a coward if you don't.
All right.
Wow.
Done.
Are we agreeing to all
Done.
go all in? Because I will.
I
Yeah, I've
already
gone all
didn't.
in.
Okay, all in.
It says everybody is wagered, so we are ready to go. Yes.
All right.
Let's do
Yeah.
it.
Odin's Zantetsuken attack has a chance to cause death to all enemies, or will otherwise miss entirely. With this item, found only in Ibsen's castle, Dagger can learn Odin's sword, which causes wind damage to all enemies if death misses.
I love that we're gonna have a total tie of 0 gil if everybody gets this wrong.
Me too.
You have to type it in, of course.
I love the deep thought looks on everyone's faces.
Despair.
It's
Shall
one
I
of
give
the
you
It's called
despair?
Despair, yes.
speedrunners never do it, so
It's a very missable item as well.
Uh-oh.
yeah, you have to do something specific to get it. So
I have a bad feeling about this.
Oh, is it the one where you turn the?
you have to walk in a direction with something.
Grim,
Sounds
you
like
know
time
it.
loss.
You know it. You can see the scene in your head.
But I can't.
You have 23 seconds.
I hope someone types in theater ship guard.
What is Black Mage Village?
That's the leadership card.
All right.
If you want to know what the leadership card is, it's Black Mage Village.
Everyone is locked in, so we're gonna start from left to right with Moogle's answer. I can't see it; it's too small.
It says
Oh, here it
Maiden's
is.
Prayer.
It is not Maiden's Prayer.
Okay.
Ironically,
get
Maiden's
it.
Prayer was part of the answer of last month's Final Factal.
Amazing.
Ooh.
What's also
Theatership
funny is
card.
The location of where you get it is in the same building.
Did Chris
Someone
type in
did put
theatership
theatership
card?
Power of suggestion.
It is not theatership card. Tonberry, let's see what you got.
I'm with Cease.
Did you
Maiden
type in
Prayer.
Maiden Prayer? Maiden Prayer is not
I
Maiden Prayer.
did.
Uh-oh.
I think the wind damage might have thrown y'all off with that one.
Maiden
And
Prayer is the
last-
only item I know in Ibsen's castle.
Same.
Easily has to
Last
get
week-
this right.
Comes to
have
Hippo.
Or we have a tie game. Ancient, aroma.
That is correct.
I think you made that up easily.
No, that doesn't sound super real.
You know, actually, fun fact
that
about the
the
ancient
one?
aroma.
Is
The
that
eye-
the one?
Yeah, that is the one where you move the pots. The icon for
Yeah,
ancient
you move it
aroma is
around
actually
backwards.
the exact same menu icon as Maiden Prayer. It's
Just
just
a different color.
a different color.
Ah,
It's blue.
It's instead of the red, it's
And the winner
that's the
is
reason I didn't get it.
Team
The
Hip
Hippos win
Hall.
again.
Team Hippo.
we need to rebrand it to Hippo now instead of Hippo.
We really
Oh.
should.
Look at the scores here.
It
Oh,
should be some
wait a
zeros.
second. Tom Berry lied.
I said so. I didn't lie. I said I didn't go all in because I wagered 999 as like a meme.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
that works.
Okay,
meme?
okay.
Because it's
Boo.
Final Fantasy IX.
Boo.
It's an amazing meme, Grim.
Coward.
I knew when we were making this board, because Drew and I both made it, that this was going to be a bit difficult for, especially when it comes to like skipping dialogue.
Oh, you guys did great.
certain things.
I thought we did okay.
Yeah,
No,
you guys did very
did
good.
great.
Very
you guys
good.
did really great.
Especially that we put a theatership card in there.
And it was a relatively close game for a lot of it.
I
You
think
guys
my
are going
favorite
back and forth.
category was the blurred backgrounds.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was.
cool.
I was like a second behind every single one. I was like,
I always like doing the visual ones. I like the musical ones and the visual ones. I just think
So
it's
Drew made the blurred backgrounds, and the first one he sent me the Lindblom Inn photo second, but the first one he sent me was Dolly Inn, and he said, "Does this need to be more blurry?" And all I responded with was, "That's the Dolly Inn." It was so obvious. So these were a lot less blurry before he showed them to me. and
I
was
blurred
like,
them
"This
up
is-"
for sure, yeah.
Yeah, we had to make them more blurry.
Before we have you guys depart us here, though, I kind of want to go through each of you and talk a little bit about your channels, give you guys a moment here to talk about what you do in the speedrunning space and where you're at and what your goals are. So we'll kind of just go from left to right here at the top. Keeper, tell us a little bit about your channel.
Sure. Hi. Yeah, my channel is Keeper BK. Many of you in chat I've seen around, so thanks for having us. This has been a blast. Really, the only thing I do in my stream currently is I speedrun Final Fantasy IX. I've been doing that for about 6 months now. I've gotten high up enough on the PC leaderboard that I've been kind of gunning for world record. We'll see whether or not I get there at some point. But
He
it's
will.
been-
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Absolutely will.
But it's been such a blast. I had never streamed until January. I didn't even know what Twitch was like two years ago. But it's been so much fun building up a little community and meeting all of you guys and a bunch of other folks in the Nine community and elsewhere. And it's just been so cool, and now so cool to get to do this with you all. So yeah, check it out if you're looking for some cozy Nine vibes. I usually do it like 3-4 times a week.
And I'm going to ask this to all of you. When you eventually, if eventually you are done with 9 speedruns, what comes next? Keeper?
It's something I've given a lot of thought to, but definitely don't have an answer to. I will speedrun another game. It will be another Final Fantasy game. I don't know which it will be yet. It will probably be either 10 or 10-2. My friend Borlanti, who I see in chat, has been pleading with me to run 10-2. The nice thing about speedrunning those games, if you do 10 cutscene removed, is it's like a 3-4 hour speedrun. Same thing for Final Fantasy X-2, so it's a little bit easier stamina-wise than running FF9, which for PC is roughly an 8-hour speedrun. For console, it's closer to 9 hours, so I do want to find something shorter next.
Very
Keeper,
nice.
you're lying. Yours is obviously going to be Ace Attorney.
That is the one other game I do occasionally play on my stream. I am a lawyer by trade, so I play Ace Attorney as a meme.
That's cool. I like that. Grim, tell us about you. Tell us about your channel, please.
Hello. I've been streaming for a little while, but it was a year ago that I started running 9. I mostly run PC. Currently, I'm routing all bosses, which is going to be really fun. So that's a category that it doesn't currently exist. Only a couple of people have run it on HDPC. But we fight Ozma, we fight Quail, we catch all the frogs, we do hot and cold, so it's fun. I also sometimes do Stardew, Outer Wilds, also speedrunning.
Ooh, Outer
Yeah.
Wilds. That's cool. I love Outer Wilds. It's a great game. Music especially. And if you had to choose the next speed run,
For Final Fantasy specifically, I'm so torn. Like, I think maybe 10-2 also. Maybe.
Okay.
Or 8.
is it the same for you? Is it a stamina thing where it's like, okay, this will be easier than 9 was?
Not really. I mean, if I'm switching to all bosses, which is 12 plus hours.
Oh no.
Stamina is not an issue. No, it's just like what would be interesting.
Nice. Very cool.
I've seen Grim go for 14 hours and considering a reset. Like,
What?
my God.
That's awesome. That's good stuff right there. Cease. Tell us about you, please.
Yeah, so I am Cease. I have been speedrunning FF9 since 2020. I started on HTPC and ran on that for about a year before. For the past about 2 years, I have been running on original hardware, PSX. My ultimate goal in that category is to get an 830 something, a sub 840, which is pretty universally agreed upon as like a top tier time. My current PB is an 849, so I still got a little bit of work to do, but I'm getting there. I've also speedrun in the Final Fantasy series. I've speedrun a lot of games, but within the Final Fantasy series, the other games I've dabbled in have been Final Fantasy II, the Pixel Remaster speedrun, which is a very fun and also extremely frustrating speedrun.
I can understand why. I just beat
in the way that FF2 is a very fun but also ultimately frustrating game. And I have run 10-2, and I'm going to publicly tell Keeper, Grim, and Easley that all 3 of you should run it because it slaps.
That's cool.
And then what I want to do after I finish with FF9, I would probably run FF7 any %, the category where you can use Kate Sith's slots ability to one-shot bosses.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I just want to chime in really quick before we say good evening to you all. And we touched on this during our segment last month. For whatever reason, and I owe all of you an apology, I assumed before I met any speedrunners that all speedrunners were going to be very snobby and gatekeepy. And I had no idea that honestly, the speedrunning community, especially in 9, have been far more welcoming and kind than almost anyone that I've met in the overall Final Fantasy community. I have not met a single snob in the Final Fantasy speedrunning community, and you guys are honestly some of the coolest people that I've met on Twitch.
Oh, thank you.
I had similar perceptions about speedrunning, honestly. I didn't
Me
think
too.
it would be as welcoming,
me.
and especially the 9 community, like so nurturing, so welcoming.
You guys are all awesome, and you're amazing at what you do. And I hope I get to know you all better because you all seem just like great people, and it was really a pleasure having you on for this. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Can we shout out Drew's like production?
Yeah,
value,
this
by
has
the
been
way?
so sick. If you ever come over to one of our streams, we're all like, yeah, low tech is good tech, but like this has been really fun.
Thank you.
Drew
I
will
appreciate
be
that.
I
Drew will
love
be
it.
celebrating 10 years on Twitch this
Yeah.
November. He's been doing this a long time.
That's so sick. You can tell just by watching that you love what you do, and that's infectious to watch. So
That's cool.
Thanks for
Thank you
having
so
us be a
much. I really
part of it.
appreciate that. I really, really appreciate that. Well, stick around, of course, if you would like and check, as we do have one more segment in the show. But we're going to say goodbye to all of our amazing Final Fantasy IX speedrunners, except for Easley, of course, who's going to stick with us.
Thanks
Have an
for having
amazing
us.
evening, you guys, if you're heading out,
Bye.
and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
See you later, guys.
thank you.
Bye.
All right, that was fun.
I love Final Fantasy Jeopardy.
Oh my gosh, that was so fun.
There's still a lot
How
of them
little,
today.
how little we all know, except easily.
Oh wait, can we still hear you
We
guys?
can still hear them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
I'm gonna exit you guys out. I wish you guys could stay on and just chat with each other,
Oh
but
no.
I'm gonna have to
No.
remove you
We-
guys. Sorry about that.
we-
All right.
can
No
go, we
worries.
can
Catch
go.
you later.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
All right.
Our
There we go.
final segment for the evening, which we finish every Crystal Bears episode with, the Moogle mailbox.
Hold on, I gotta pull it up. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for this.
Drew wasn't ready.
I'm ready now. The Moogle mailbox, you guys.
Now it's the Moogle mailbox.
Oh, hi, Drew.
Drew, we love Drew.
Of course, you guys might have noticed, and you guys can still take advantage of this, that we have a Twitch channel points redemption called the Moogle Mailbox. It's your opportunity to ask us questions that maybe were unrelated to what we were discussing tonight, maybe unrelated to Final Fantasy 16 or 9 or 10 Remake. It could really be about anything and everything Final Fantasy. So let's get going here, and let's reveal our first question of the night. Oh, looks like it. Hold on one second. Let me go to the next question.
It was blank.
Hopefully it works.
It's an existential
There we go.
question.
Kyan came in and asked, how do you think Final Fantasy XVI has changed the way Final Fantasy and gaming as a whole will be in the future, i.e. accessibility options, VAing, mature, rating, and so on? I think we touched on this a little bit during the show. I do think that it's all going to depend, of course, on how well this thing does with its legs. You know what I mean? At an amazing start, we talked about it. It's probably at 3.5, maybe even 4 million already on an install base less than 40 million. Over 10% of PS5 owners own this game. That's an amazing start for this entry in the franchise. If it can grow to sell 10 plus million, maybe even 15 plus million, I think that could have an impact. Don't you agree, Shoop?
I want to, yes, of course. I mean, obviously sales, says a lot about what the future of gaming will be. I want to touch on what Kyan asked about accessibility options. I want to talk about how quick, and this just happened yesterday, where they fixed the motion blur and patched 16 very quickly because they listened. They really listened to the people who said, this is an issue, I can't play because of this. It's showing how quickly they were able to patch and fix things in order for people to play, and also the beginning settings before the patch, which like the visual settings that you can set before you play the game. It really is a testament to how far gaming has come. I don't feel like, I don't know, I don't feel like it's a flex to be like, oh, I can play this really hard game that gives you no accessibility and no assistance and blah blah. That's not a flex to me. That's arrogance. I think that's very closed-minded. Not everyone is going to have the same motor skills. Not everyone is going to have the same mental, like everybody's different. And showing how quickly they were able to attune certain elements of this game speaks volumes of the future of Final Fantasy. Especially like, look what they did with the Pixel remasters, not just for PC, but also for console. They really listened to the most basic of things. When the Pixel remasters came to console, people were excited that Square listened to us saying, okay, the font in the Pixel remasters, it doesn't look right. It doesn't look right. And now you can have the original font in the Pixel remasters on console.
To go into like VAing, I do think we're at a point now that we are past Final Fantasy X style voice acting, which is why I do think if they remake 10, they're going to redo the voice acting. I mean, 7 Remake, in my opinion, for what 7 Remake is trying to do, I love the voice acting in 7 Remake. And then 16, for what it's trying to do, is some of the best I've heard in gaming. And I do think they've set a precedent there. And
it's a lot more emotionally toned.
They can't go back from that. Like, you can't go back to Final Fantasy X style voice acting now. I just don't think you can do that. So if they do remakes, and that's like a question we didn't talk about earlier. If they do a 9 remake, do you guys think they should voice act it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious, some people might say they want it to stay faithful to, just text-based, but I agree. I would want them to voice act it as well. And I was very impressed with what they did with Memoria Project, actually. I thought that Vivi especially was perfect, and I would love them to use the actor they used for Vivi in an eventual 9 remake. So I do think we're at a point now where you can't go back from the quality of voice acting that we're now seeing
I
in
did have
16.
one issue in 16 with the NPC's voice acting, and I know Drew, you were kind of surprised by this. I want to know easily your thoughts on this. Certain NPCs giving you side quests, they'll voice the first like 2 or 3 words of their sentence and then just stop. I thought it was a glitch, but I'm assuming it's not a glitch. It's supposed to be that way.
It doesn't
But
seem like it's a glitch based on what other
they
people have
don't
said.
read their entire line, and I don't like that. Either read
found
the
it
entire line or
bizarre.
don't.
I found it a bit bizarre. You could very, very easily have just gone, you know what, this is 3 words. Let's not have them say that and let's just have the text bubble.
Mhm.
Or alternatively, voice everything, but don't pick somewhere in the middle and hope that's okay.
Right.
I didn't like in the middle. I would rather have a text bubble that I can read, or it's voiced all the way. I don't want half or just like the first 3 words.
Yeah, I agree with that. As far as the mature rating goes, I kind of wish I would love if 7 Rebirth was mature. I'll say that right now. I'd like for them to feel less limitations when it comes to the language that Barrett and Sid use. I would especially like them to not feel limited when it comes to a certain very pivotal moment that may or may not happen. Like, I don't want them to feel like, oh, we can't have blood here, because that's what happened in 7 Remake. I think they did fine with it. They decided to make Genova's blood purple to get around the mature rating, and I think it works. It's an alien creature. It worked for that moment, but there was something a little bit lost in it not being red blood, the trail of blood as it was called in the original. So maybe the success of 16 would make them feel like even prior now to 7 Rebirth's release, they still have, let's say, 9 months until it comes out. They might still have an opportunity to say like, hey, we could probably push the boundaries here maybe, or do we want to just say, hey, this is going to be mature rated? I want to say that we haven't seen a rating on the trailers yet. I don't think.
I haven't
I
seen
have
one.
not, no.
And with how dark 7 actually is, and not just with the scene you were skipping over, that you literally see somebody get shot, you see an arm get shot, you see so many actual blood occurring events that
suicide happens in the game. There's
you
there's
see
some stuff.
so many dark things in there, and for them not to rate it M, like, or whatever it is over there, it'd be an 18 plus here or whatever, but to not rate it as a mature game just doesn't seem right. I could understand it from some of the others maybe, but not 7 because it's very dark.
Yeah, agreed. I think they can make it work as teen. Don't get me wrong. They can make it work. They made it work with Remake. I'm sure it'll be great. But I do think that there could be another level of just storytelling and connection and emotionality and all that if they just feel like they're not limited. That's all. I just don't want them to feel like they're limited in what they can do.
And I think having a mature rating gives you more creative freedom.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that the Final Fantasy fan base, by and large, has grown up with the franchise.
Well,
I bet if you were to survey the players of Final Fantasy, especially now with 16 releasing, it's probably like averaging in the 30s. I don't know. I might be way off, but do you think it's possible? Like late 20s, 30s? Like, I think that could be where we're at with the average age of the Final Fantasy audience.
Specifically for 7, I'd say early 30s, early 40s.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like we grew up with this series and it's time to let it to mature. And they did kind of, right? They just did. 16 definitely shows that they were willing, because 16 is not just mature. 16 is pretty graphic actually at moments. Like that.
It also touches on some very mature themes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Borlanti makes a good point in chat, though. Does it make sense to change the rating in the middle of a trilogy?
I could see it happening.
In one way, yes, because look at what year the first one came out.
4 years
ago. It was
ago,
a teen rating. You had to be what age in America to buy it? This is 15. You had to be to buy it here.
You have to be 17 to play a mature game.
Okay, so it was 15 was the age you had to be to buy 7 Remake here, and if they up it to an 18 or a 17 as you guys would have, look at the time between the games. They're going to be there or thereabouts.
Oh, so yours was 15. That's interesting. So here teen is 13 in America, and that's what 7 Remake was rated. You had to be 13 to play 7 Remake. So they already kind of pushed it a little bit because they had to be 15. where you're from. So that's already kind of skirting the line. And mature here is 17 and it might be 18 there. So they're kind of already moving in that direction. I could see them doing it. And
I don't
as
think
you're
there's-
implying, people have grown up with the games even over the past 3-4 years since 7 Remake came out. So
I was gonna say, I don't think there's anything in this trailer that's displayed on screen that would point to a mature rating.
no,
For
I don't think
Rebirth?
so.
We haven't seen graphic nature. We haven't seen blood or depictions of blood yet.
They had a little bit of blood actually at the very end when he slashes Tifa, which is more blood than I think all of 7 Remake had. I don't think 7 Remake
That-
has any blood.
Yeah, that was shocking.
Yeah, so
Not
Tifa
shocking,
does
but it was
have a little bit of
surprising.
blood, yeah. So that was interesting to see that they did have a splash of blood from Tifa's chest when Sephiroth slashes her
But
at
there's
the
no
end of the trailer.
gore. I think
No.
what I meant to say was like there's no gore.
No, they could certainly get away with a teen rating with that scene.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I don't think they will raise it past teen personally.
I
because
don't
when
think
you
so
look at All
either.
the clips, there's nothing that pushes it past what it currently is.
I agree. I don't think they will. Let's move to the next question. Coming in from Zarkano said, can you see Yoshi P as a new pioneer for future Final Fantasies? I feel like he's already kind of considered like the savior of Final Fantasy, if I'm being honest with you. Like a lot of people treat him like a god. So we might already be there to a certain extent, like where he's so trusted that it's like, we need the stamp of approval from Yoshi P.
I mean, he is a pioneer. I mean, at the end of the day, like look what he's done with 14, which I've not played 14, but I've seen so many people who were not even into like the main line Final Fantasy games delve their whole heart and soul into 14 because of Yoshi P's direction, you know?
Right. I mean, I don't know enough yet. Like I haven't gotten far enough into 14 to know that it's the second coming of like Final Fantasy to the point where it's like I want Yoshi P to be like the master of this all just yet. Like I don't know. Like I really
He's
liked
on
Heaven
his way.
Sword. Realm Reborn was fine. I think Stormblood's gonna be great. I really like the atmosphere that I'm seeing so far. But nothing in 14 from a story or especially from a combat perspective holds a candle to, for me, 7, 8, 9, 10, 7 Remake, 16. Like, it's still nowhere near that level for me yet. So I need to wait and see where 14 goes. To be fair, it's just not my style of Final Fantasy either. Like, I'm not into MMOs. So there's automatically, like, just a barrier there for me that the game has to overcome. So we'll have to wait and see. Any
I'm
other?
in the same boat. I get that.
Okay, move on to the next one then.
Yeah.
All right, next up we have Sarkano again. Maybe not.
It blanked out.
Let me see if I can get it
Maybe
one
it
more
was a bit
time.
weird.
There we go. What do you think of Yoshinori Kitase stating that Square Enix would be open to making Final Fantasy in other genres, even first-person shooters? We've dabbled a little bit in the shooter area,
Yeah, I
a
mean,
little bit.
you've got a few games that are already in other genres. Like they've got a well, like a Fortnite style game to a degree. They've got a first person. They've got Dirge of Cerberus, which is a shooter. They've got a card game. What else they got? They got a few different genres now, haven't they?
Yeah, they've got a. Did you say a kart racer with Chocobo GP?
I didn't, but that is.
Yeah, they definitely experiment with Final Fantasy without a doubt. So
Is the
I could
Cydia
certainly
a
see
fighting
it.
game? I haven't played
Yes,
Dissidia.
the
It's
city is a
Yep.
fighting game. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, you have a fighting game as well. Yep.
So
You have
really,
Theater Rhythm, which is a musical rhythm game.
there's never been a first-person shooter, but we've certainly had shooters. You know, you had that Final Fantasy First Soldier thing. You had Dirge of Cerberus. Like they've messed around. They did Battle Royale. Like so, it's definitely not outside of the realm of possibility. I could see it happening. I could even see like not a mainline Final Fantasy necessarily, but I could see like another offshoot, like a sequel or
Xerxes,
something.
yeah, they do have. Square Enix has done a Power Wash Simulator for Midgard.
Yeah.
They've done that.
Yeah, Kai
Yep.
said Dirge of Cerberus, and to Xerxes, here's the thing. I don't want to harp on this too much about 14, but even if I did play solo, I feel like I'm kind of missing the point. Like I feel like it's not meant to be played that way, and I've gotten myself out of my comfort zone in order to play it the way that I think it's meant to be played with the community, which is an amazing community, by the way. It is the absolute highlight of Final Fantasy 14, the community. That is why I come back to that game for the most part right now. I think it'll be the story eventually, but it was especially the community that brought me back to Final Fantasy XIV. That's not going to change that. I'm not really into the cooldown battle system that MMOs typically have. Like 14, you're just constantly waiting for abilities to cool down and you're cycling between them, and you get into a rhythm and you definitely have certain patterns that you just keep repeating. It's a little, I don't know, it just doesn't do it for me personally. I do like when the boss battles mix it up with, oh, there's something on the floor here, get out of that area, and things like that, or the stacking, and there's cool things like that I appreciate, but I don't think it's ever going to be my style of combat that I appreciate more than what 7 Remake is doing with the hybrid ATB action, or even what 16 is doing with the real-time action, and especially not ATB turn-based classic that I grew up with. So there's just a barrier there, and I think there always probably will be for me. I think that probably was the last question. Let me see one more time.
See, and not just that, whilst you're looking, but not just that. To get the most out of Final Fantasy XIV, you need to play with community members.
Yeah,
I know they've got the AI for some bits, but you couldn't get the full game if you only do the single player sections.
I personally, I don't want it to be turned into a whole, like, there's so many people already complaining online about 16 not being my Final Fantasy because it's taken such a turn and blah blah blah. I don't want a first-person shooter Final Fantasy. I'm sorry, I just don't. I want to play a first-person shooter. I will go play a game that is supposed to be a first-person shooter. If I want to play an RPG and a story that I'm going to immerse myself in, I'm going to play Final Fantasy.
I certainly wouldn't want it to be one of the main 3 business units. If you want to give it to like some like crazy offshoot team that has nothing really to do with the main 3 teams, then okay, whatever. But I wouldn't want to waste the resources of the 3 business units that we know to be making things like 7 Remake, Rebirth, maybe 9 Remake, maybe 10 Remake, maybe 16 and 17 and 14.
If
and
they
all
turn
that.
10 Remake into a first-person shooter, I won't play it.
I probably would still play it, but I wouldn't be happy. That's for sure. And I agree, Kyan. I would play a Final Fantasy shooter just to see what it's all about. I'm not opposed to trying it out. But I wouldn't want to be Final Fantasy 17. I wouldn't want a mainline Final Fantasy to be a first-person shooter. Hey, Kate coming in with the raid, and we're actually getting very close to the end here, Kate. So I think we're gonna be paying your raid forward.
Kate was playing
Yeah,
a
welcome
10-2.
in.
Kate's gone through her
Welcome in,
first
Raiders.
playthrough of 10-2.
That's awesome. A lot of good conversation tonight. Thank you so much to all of our guests. Eyes on B, Keeper BK, Grim Salad, Ceaselessly, all joining us tonight for a lot of really great conversation. Of course, our hosts, Easily 18 and Risey Shoepuff. Shout outs to everybody, but especially Easily and Shoop, who are amazing Final Fantasy streamers, speedrunners, all that good stuff. Please, please, please make sure to follow them if you haven't already. And thank you to all the follows that came in tonight here. Of course, those all get shout outs in just a moment. Any final words from our cast here?
Final Fantasy X!
Anything else?
Those are always my final words.
No, I'm just hoping that by the time we're here next, I will be at the bare minimum top 10 on Final Fantasy IX, and maybe on my next game, which I'm not going to tell you what that will be.
Ooh. Thank you so much for the gifted sub and chat there. Killer Draco to Just Kate.
I'm excited to continue 16 tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to playing through it all this week and all next week.
For me tomorrow is Final Fantasy IV, which I'm excited to get back to. I'm liking the alternation between the two of them. It works really well for me. Every time I play 16 on the next stream, I'm like, oh, I'm excited to play 4. And then when I'm done 4, I'm like, oh, I'm excited to get back to 16. It's like, it's a perfect balance. It gives me just enough time in between to get excited again to return. So you'll see all of us this week. Keep an eye out. Get on the Discord. I'll put it in chat one more time. And to those that maybe missed the first part of the stream, this will go up on YouTube at youtube.com/Droogle, and it will also go up on podcast services, pretty much all of them, but specifically I know a lot of you like to do the Spotify and the Apple Podcast, and we would really appreciate it if you went to the links and made sure to like, follow, whatever it allows you to do. We'd really appreciate if you could do that. That is it for us. We will see you next month. Let me look at the date here. Our next episode is on August 3rd, episode 3 of Crystal Bears, a Final Fantasy podcast. I will look for somebody to raid during our credits, so please don't go anywhere. Stick around during the credits and wait for the raid to pop up, and we will see you next time. Until then, take care, and as always, don't forget to level up, you guys. Final Fantasy's love, Final Fantasy's life.
Take care, everyone.